What's up, everyone? Decoders. Hope you guys are all good. Thanks for joining in today. Today is July 7th, and hopefully everyone had a good holiday weekend in the United States, 4th of July weekend. And here in Germany, nothing much going on, but we're going to have a decode today. So give it a few minutes, let some people join in. Can you guys give me a thumbs up? Give me that thumbs up in the chat. Make sure everything's, just so I know everything's good. And let me know what you guys with the thumbs up. Hey, Betty. And hey, Visionary Vet. And Coffee Girl. Hello. Nice to see you all today. This stream is going to be interesting for sure. We're going to have other people on as well. We're going to have Sean and hopefully whoever else wants to join in. It's going to be kind of a round table, I think. So hopefully you guys enjoy this stream. There's some interesting topics to talk about. I've been doing some deep research, so hopefully you guys can follow along with what I'm about ready to share. It's a bit complicated. I don't even fully understand it yet. But thanks for hitting the like buttons. Please hit those like buttons as you get in here. That is greatly appreciated so that I can help get the likes up to 100 before the stream's over. And I see Sean's in the chat. Much love, brother. Let's see. Sylvia, hello. And Brian and Big Marcus. Hope you guys are all good. Going to give it another minute, and then I have a feeling today is going to be a kind of a low viewed day because Joseph's channel was very low. Just got back from Joseph Aquaviva's channel. He had a low viewership today. So anyways, we are going to talk about, we're going to talk about a form of gematria and a form of, like, I don't even know what to call it. It's form of gematria, but it's called the Liber Trigrammaton. Okay, and we're going to talk about how it's tied to Lucifer and the religion created by Aleister Crowley called Thlema, this is the symbol of Thelema. And so we're going to talk about these things, how they connect. We're going to do a bit of investigating into some new topics here. So hopefully you guys can follow along. Thanks for the thumbs up, everyone. Yeah, so I'm kind of debating on Sean. I don't know if you want to, well, I'll just present this real fast and then we'll bring Sean on and then we'll bring whoever else wants to come on. So here we go. My girlfriend's in the chat. Love you. And anyways, so I've talked about this before, guys. I've been talking about Aleister Crowley and his book of the law, the Liber Al Veligus, right? And this was written in 1904 by Aleister Crowley, and it wrote out the text, a foundational document of his worldview known as the Liber Al Veligus, otherwise known as the Book of the Law. In this text was an injunction found at verse 255, "Thou shalt obtain and order the value of the English alphabet, and thou shalt find new symbols to attribute them unto." So Crowley understood this as referring to an English Kabbalah yet to be developed or revealed. In one of the holy books of Thelema, written by Aleister Crowley in 1907, called Liber Trigrammaton, which is sub figura XXVII, being the book of the mutations of the Tao and the Yin and the Yang. And this is a 27 three-line diagram known as trigrams, which are composed of single lines for the Yang, a broken line for the Yin, and a point for the Tao. By attributing 26 Roman script letters to the trigrams of his work, Crowley felt that he had to fulfill the injunction to obtain and order the value of the English alphabet. So I want you guys to first notice that this whole thing that Crowley talked about here was in his book of the law. It was located at verse 255, okay? And what's crazy about that is if you write out the name of his book in Latin, Liber Alva Legis, it equals 255. And at this verse, he mentions about an English alphabet or a gematria that shall be for new symbols, okay? Finding new symbols and creating a new order in the English alphabet, okay? But not a coincidence that the name of his book equals 255, and right at verse 255, he talks about this gematria, okay? So let's just talk a little bit more about it. And as I pointed out here, the Liber Trigrammaton, okay? This is a book of mutations of the Tao, the yin, and the yang, and it has 27 three-line diagrams known as trigrams, okay? And we're going to talk about this cipher, and we're going to talk about how this connects to Lucifer. And it's going to get pretty deep here, but so this book was written later on after Crowley died, way after Crowley died, and it was written by Leo Gillis. And Leo Gillis, he decided he was going to look more into the Trigrammaton Kabbalah, okay? And what he found was basically he found that this 27, so this is a bit hard to explain. I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. So there's 27 different, so you see this over here, guys? You see these dots, these stars? So in Aleister Crowley's book, he wrote different ways. These are trigrams, okay? And basically what these are is these represent letters on a cipher on English alphabet, okay? Each one represents a letter, and each one represents a symbol, okay? So the top one here is called the Tao, and the letter associated with this trigrammaton, the three stars, the three dots, is the letter I, like the I am, okay? And this is what Crowley said about the letter I and about the Tao. He said, "Here is nothing under its three forms. It is not, yet informeth all things." Okay? So this Tao represents, I'm going to get into what it represents in a minute, but I'm just kind of laying out the foundation for you guys. The second letter is the letter L. You guys can barely see it right here, but it's the letter L. And it's represented by two dots and then a line underneath. You see the line, the two dots and the line, okay? That's the letter L. The letter C is next, and it's represented, you guys can't see it here also, but I'll show it more once I get farther down. But basically, this is all based off of the base 3. So base 3 is basically like binary, right? Binary is all ones and zeros, right? Well, base 3 is basically 1s, 0s, and 2s. So that's why you're getting these three different symbols here: the dot, the straight line, and the. So you have the dots, then you have the three right here, this line, and then you have the two lines. Okay, so let me just explain. So this is the cipher. This is located, if you have a paid subscription to Derek, the Gematrinator calculator, this cipher is located on the Gematrinator, okay? And as I told you, this alphabet is lettered based off of different symbols and astrology signs and different archetypes, okay? So the first one I told you was the letter I. So letter I represents spirit, and it has no archetype. It has no tarot card. You see how it's blank? Okay? The reason that is because, as it said in the last thing, this is the Tao, the letter I. Here is nothing under its three forms. It is not, yet it informeth all things. Okay? So basically what this means, guys, is this is God. This is consciousness. This is God in the beginning, before there is any forms. This is the beginning of the Bible, when God says his spirit hovered over the waters. Everything was formless. Okay, do you guys get it? Everything was formless at the very beginning. And God created forms into reality. Okay, so this is represented by the first letter, which represents the number 0, and the letter I, spirit, God. The highest the indescribable and unsurpassable, right, is pretty much what this represents. The second letter represents the magician, which is the letter L, and it represents the yang, which is the yin and the yang. It's the yang, which is the masculine, okay? And then the third letter is C, which is represented by the number 2, and it's represented by the letter C and by the Fool card, okay? And yin is the feminine aspect of the yin and yang. And then as you go down, you have all these other archetypes and all these other symbols, right? I'm not going to get into all of them, but I'm just laying to you guys out what this all means, okay? So Aleister Crowley, I told you guys the 255 is huge. When he wrote this, he wrote his Book of the Law, which equals 255. He said at verse 255 that he shall find an order and value of the English alphabet, okay? And one of his most famous writings and one of his most famous phrases that they always repeat in Thlema is called "Love is the law, love under will." Okay, and in the English Kabbalah Trigrammaton cipher, which is just what I laid out to you here, this is the same cipher, the Trigrammaton cipher right here. All this, okay, in that cipher, Crowley's famous phrase "Love is the law, love under will" equals 255. What are the chances of that, guys? Because I told you in verse 255, he talks about this alphabet, which I just showed you, this cipher, okay? He talks about this, finding this, discovering this. And again, in that cipher, it equals 255, like the verse, okay? Now, I also showed you that the name of his book equals 255. And this has been a big number. Last month, there was a huge thing that happened connected to the Venus transit in 1769. I talked all about that. I'm not going to get into that here, but there's so much more to talk about with that. So let me explain to you what this is really all about. Okay, so this is where we get into the meat of the information. Okay, so back with the 255 number, right? It's in verse 255 where he lays out this new gematria, this new alphabet order. And notice that the word fallen angels equals 255, okay? And if in the cipher, the Trigrammaton cipher, if you type in fall of Lucifer morning star, it equals 255. And let me just describe to you what exactly these trigrams are telling you. So here's your trigram that represents the number 0. This represents the formless. This represents God, formless. He's above form. He is not form. He is above form. There is no form. God does not need form. He's above all forms. We are forms, but he is above all form. And it tells you this right here. Okay, it tells you this right here. Here is nothing under its 3 forms. It is not, yet informs all things. Okay, so God is not a form, but he informs all things. He forms all things. Okay, so this is the first verse of the Bible, guys. This is in the beginning, right? There was the Spirit of God, the form was hovering over the water, right? And this is represented by the letter I. So why do you think God said, I am? I. That represents God's ultimate supreme being, the I, Jesus, the I am, okay? And this is perfection, okay? This is perfection. This is untouchable. That's why it says it's not a form, but it informs all things. It's not part of this reality. It's not part of it. It is the thing that can never be fully understood, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And notice that it describes this as the letter I, and it says narrowed breath represents concentration and aspiration, okay? Now, the next form after the 0 or the I is now cometh the glory of the single one. Okay, so that sounds good at first, right? Now comes the glory of the single one. But then look what it says. It says, as an imperfection and a stain. So what it means is This arising of the single one is a stain on God's formless reality, God's reality, right? It's a stain. The single one represents pride. The single one represents the one who stands up against God, Lucifer, okay? Why do you think that the letter that represents this second form, this first form actually, is the letter L? Because Lucifer starts with the letter L, right? So Lucifer is the glory. He sees his own glory. God does not give him glory, but he believes in his own glory. So therefore he sets himself above. But that is an imperfection and a stain on this formless being of God, right? This is what God is, okay? And so this fall, this is the fall right here. This is the fall of Lucifer, okay? That's why fall of Lucifer, the morning star, equals 255, like fallen angels. And again, this all connects to that number, 255, okay? So hopefully you guys understand what I'm getting at here. This is the I am, and this is Lucifer. Now, after Lucifer comes into being, and notice that Lucifer's trigram is 2 stars and a line. See, there's 2 stars and a line, right? This represents Lucifer, the L, okay? The single one, the imperfection, the stain. And again, what comes next? What comes after God's formless being? Before there was anything, God was there, right? Then there's Lucifer, the one who rises up against, right? The one who sets himself apart from God, sets himself above God, right? Lucifer. What comes after Lucifer? Well, what comes after Lucifer is the mother that weakens Lucifer. Okay, so look at this. Lucifer stands up and says, I am above God. I will make my own. I will ascend into heaven as my own God, right? And then immediately pride hits him, and there's pride, and then there's a fall, right? A fall. And that's why the next form is, read what it says, guys. But by the weak one, the mother was its equilibrated, okay? So this one is the weak one, but it comes in after the fall. So Lucifer falls, and then it's the weak one that brings it into balance. So let's hear this. Let's read Isaiah 14:12 through 14. It says, how art thou fallen from heaven? That's this right here. How art thou fallen from heaven, Lucifer, O son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? You guys see this? Here's the fall. Here's the weak. Why does it say weaken? Weaken the nations right here. So Lucifer falls in this one, and then it weakens the nations here. And what is a nation, guys? What is the essence of a nation? It's a divide. It's a border. Okay? In order to have a nation, you must have a border. So there must be a division. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? There is no nations or countries without borders. These fake imaginary lines that are drawn on the map, okay? Those are borders. And when Lucifer falls, he weakens the nations or the borders. He divides. Things are divided, okay? And this is why these two represent the yin and the yang, okay? The aggressive, the passive is this one, and this is the masculine and the feminine, right? So this is the divide. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So again, Lucifer, he is the stain, the imperfection, the one who says, I will be above the Most High, which is the I am, God, Jesus, right? So do you guys see how it's playing out here? You have the formless, which is perfect. It's unable to be, it's completely pure. It's God's pure being, it's pure nature of what he is. And you can't even understand it. We can't even understand his splendor. You can't even look upon it. You can in no way comprehend it fully. And then Lucifer thinks, I can, and then he falls from grace, right? And then this happens, and to bring it into balance, to weaken his pride, he must be humbled. Okay, so his pride rises up, and then he gets humbled. Okay, he gets cut down, humbled. And so when we go back to this cipher where this all started, right, and we map out the name Lucifer, okay, so this is how we can do this. L is the first number. So L represents 1, which is the magician. The next letter in Lucifer is U. So you have to go all the way down here to the bottom. It's the tower. The U represents the tower card. The 25th letter in this cipher is the tower. So how perfect that is, guys. Lucifer, the masculine that I just told you was the yang that falls. And the second letter in this cipher of Lucifer, okay, this is the tower. So Lucifer falls. You know how the tower card is all about the destruction, the fall? Now, the third letter in Lucifer is C, which is the yin. And this is the weakened. So Lucifer falls like the tower and is weakened and is humiliated. He's humbled. So LUC represents the process of Lucifer falling and being humbled. And then the next letter is I. And I represents God. So Lucifer is humbled. This is the process of somebody who rises up against God and is humbled. Okay, and then must realize that he is not his own God. He must give his life to the I, which is the ultimate surrender. Okay, so this is Lucifer's fall and then a surrender. That's why I is in the middle of Lucifer, guys. I is directly in the middle of Lucifer. Lucifer's fall leads to the humility, which leads to the recognition that God is above all, that God is I am. And then from there, you have the FER, and the FER represents fortitude. And the word fortitude means strength or courage in a difficult time. Okay, so now you've had the process of the fall, and now you've reached God, and now you're going through hard times. Does that sound familiar to some people here? Fortitude. You have the courage now because you understand what God is. You have the courage to go through time. And you have the fortitude because God gives you the fortitude. The next letter, okay, the next letter is E. And E is the 13th letter in this cipher, and it represents the sun. And this is the new light that God gives to those who surrender. So this is basically the surrender, the return to God, the realization that God is the only, and then the courage to allow God to transform you into the sun, your own, to use God's light to shine through you. Okay, do you guys understand what I mean? And then the last letter is R, and R represents the devil. So this comes all back around and then you become the devil again. So how does that make sense, guys? How is it that you go from pride and then a fall and then realization of God and then humility and then fortitude and courage, and then you become the devil again? And I think this represents the way that others see us when we go through this transformation. They see us as the devil because most of the world doesn't understand people who go through this spiritual experience, right? So there is this process here in this word Lucifer, and it's explained with these things. Again, if you spell out the word Lucifer, you get these these different letters, right? Hopefully you guys understood that. Hopefully you guys are understanding what I'm getting at here. But all I'm saying is this is very deep, okay? But how do I know that Lucifer is a big part of what this whole cipher is about? Well, because Aleister Crowley wrote this cipher, he investigated this cipher to try to create a new language, a new order of the alphabet, okay? And this is what he said: "Thou shalt obtain the order and value of the English alphabet. Thou shalt find new symbols to attribute unto them," which was understood by Crowley as referring to the English Kubala. Okay, so this is this cipher. So this is all about the English alphabet, guys. And what is the chances that Lucifer is a super match in almost all ciphers to English? Okay, so not only in the base English Gematria ciphers, but also in the Trigrammaton, which I've been talking about here. What are the chances? A perfect match. So Crowley was saying we're going to find a new order for the alphabet, and this is the order that eventually came out of that. And this is where you get Lucifer, and this is where you get English, the English alphabet, which equals Lucifer. And the whole process of this Trigrammaton cipher is a process of 3 digits. It's a ternary. It's basically base 3, which means there's only 3 digits. It's one different from binary. Binary, you only use ones and zeros. Ternary, you use ones, zeros, and twos. Okay, so 3 digits. And look at this. In the other Kubala ciphers, which I've presented in prior decodes, not the Trigrammaton cipher, but the other Crowley Thlema ciphers, the words Thelema and the words Lucifer equals 102. And did I not just tell you guys that 102 represents the first 3 letters of this cipher? 0, 1, and 2. I is the 0, L is the I or the 1, and C is the 2. This is God, this is Lucifer, and this is the weakening. This is the humility. This is Lucifer's fall right here, essentially. So these first 3, and these 2 are opposites. This represents the yin and the yang. Those who are humble and those who are prideful. That's what these 2 represent. The L for the pride and the C for the weak, the humble, the humiliated people. But anyway, the first 3 letters are 0, 1, and 2, okay? And in these ciphers, these Gematria ciphers, Lucifer equals 102. So this represents Lucifer, because Lucifer is represented by the 1, okay? And God is in the middle here, because God, or the Tao, is represented by the 0 in the middle, and the 2 is represented by the yang, or the yin. Sorry, so the yang, the spirit, and the yin. Okay, so that's these 3. So Thelema, which is this whole religion, is also 102. Okay, which is again the 102. And this brings to light the 201 number that we always talk about. Okay. So even in this writing, this is a writing by a guy who discovered this, and he even mentions the number 102 and 201. He says, This requires the use of a second axiom of the TQ. The Tao is neutral, while the Yang and the Yin are opposites. The use of the second axiom results in the concept of the antigram, kind of like Antichrist, right? Antigram. Two trigrams are antigrams if their lines are occupied by opposite line types. Thus, if a trigram has a structure of 102, then its antigram had a structure of 201. Okay, so the opposites. Again, the yin and the yang. But in these numbers, 102 and 201 are represented by the three numbers that represent the yin, the yang, and the Tao. The Tao, which is the spirit, the yang and the yin are the 0, 1, 2. And in this number is represented the Tao, the yin, and the yang. Okay, 201, 102. That's what this number is really about. It represents essentially the Trinity, but it represents this process of the spirit coming into a form like Lucifer, and then the weakening and the humbling. Okay. So if we investigate, okay, so let me just read this. The methodology behind the creation of a calendar relies on the curious fact that the antigrams for the whole number, there is one and only one antigram pair whose members are different by that number. For example, the numbers 156 and 204 are antigrams in the base 3 ternary notation. They are represented by 011210 and 021120, respectively. So these two numbers represented in base 3 as this number. So 156 is this number in base 3, and 204 is this number in base 3. These are anagrams. This antigram pair is different by 48. 204 minus 156 is 48. No other antigram pair differs by this value of 48. Therefore, this pair can be attributed to day 48 of the year, and so on for all the other 364 antigram pairs. What makes such a calendar Thelemic is the fact that it begins with a 0 day on March 20th, the feast of the equinox of the gods. From this starting point, day 93 is the June solstice, and day 186, which is 2 times 93, is the September equinox. So hopefully you guys are following me. But the point of this is the number 93 is the whole number based on Thlema. Okay? Crowley's name of his book equals 93. Okay? The number on the front of his book in Roman numerals, XCIII, is 93. Okay? The number 93 is great significance to Thelema. The central philosophy of Thelema is 2 phases from Liber Al. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, and love is the law, love under will. Crowley urged these used in everyday communications, and himself used them to greet people. Today, rather than using the full phrases, Thelemites often use numerological abbreviations to shorten these greetings in informal contexts, a practice Crowley applied in his informal writings. The 2 primary terms in these statements is will and love, respectively. Using the Greek technique of gematria or isopsophy, which applies numerical values to the letters of the word thelema or will, and the letters of the word agape or love sum to 93. So thelema in Greek equals 93, and love, agape, equals 93 in Greek. Okay. Now, this is not the will of a man. This is God's will. Okay. Thelema does not represent the will of you and I, our own little will. It represents God's ultimate will for everything. It's his will. Agape represents God's love, which is unconditional, right? So agape is not like a romantic love, is basically what I'm trying to say. Agape is not a romantic love. It's not a friendship love. It's a higher love. So you got the God's will and you got a higher love. Both equal 93 in Greek, okay? Now, again, they celebrate the Thelema, the Thelemites, they celebrate March 20th as the feast of the supreme ritual, which celebrates the invocation of Horus, the ritual performed by Crowley on this date in 1904, March 20th, okay? The equinox of the gods, which is commonly referred to as the Thelemic New Year. So March 20th, guys, this is the new year of Thelema. And this is the date that Crowley supposedly channeled Horus, and he inaugurated the new Aeon on March 20th, 1904. Okay. Now look at this, guys. They also celebrate April 8th. So there's your April 8th eclipse. Remember, Crowley channeled this book of the law exactly 120 years before this year's eclipse on 4/8. And the word eclipse equals 120, guys. So the next big date is 4/8. Then the next big date in Thelema is the summer solstice on June 20th or 21st. The next big date is August 12th, the feast of the prophet and his bride. The holiday commemorates Aleister Crowley and his first wife, Rose. Rose was a key figure in the writing of the Book of the Law. Okay, so there's your Rose. There's your Venus Rose again. And then another big important date is the autumnal equinox. Okay, so all these dates are important. But let's see how they line up, okay? Now, remember, I told you the new year for Thelema this is Thelema's symbol, the 93s, right? The new year for Thelema is March 20th. Well, immediately when I heard March 20th, I thought of the movie Knowing. Because that movie, Knowing, came out on March 20th. That means this movie came out on the feast day of Thelema on March 20th. And Thelema's number is 93, right? And the movie that came out on Thelema's New Year is Knowing, which equals 93. So this movie is clearly connected to Thelema, okay? Knowing equals 93. That's the number of Thelema. Not only that, guys, this movie is about a solar flare. And the word flare equals 93. So Knowing, 93, flare, which is what this movie is about, 93. This came out on the new year of Thelema, okay? So I now understand why they released this movie on this date. I always wondered why they chose March 20th to release the movie Knowing, and I think it's very much because of this, the 93. Now, again, Thelema, their new year is March 20th. That's the day the movie Knowing came out, right? Not Knowing 93, right? There's a flare 93, okay? So Thelema came out 3/20, or that's their new year. 93 days later is the summer solstice. Okay, this is all about the sun, guys. This movie is about the sun and solar flares. The sun is apparently 93 million miles away. Okay? So the sun is 93 million miles away. The word flare equals 93. The sun gives off solar flares. And the word in the movie Knowing comes out on the new year of Thelema, which is 93. And then it's all about flares and the sun. And 93 days after their new year is the day where the sun is the highest, which is the summer solstice. 93 days later, guys. So the sun is 93 million miles away, and from the Thelemic New Year to the summer solstice is 93 days. And from the summer solstice, 93 days forward is the autumnal equinox. So this whole thing is set up with this number 93 is what I'm showing you. And as I showed in the beginning, this all connects back to the sun, right? Is the shining one, right? It shines in the sky. And Lucifer is the bright one, right? So what I'm saying is this all connects back to Thelema and this new alphabet that they supposedly came up with, right? And again, I pointed to you guys, this is the fall, right? This is God's formless This is before the fall, and this is Lucifer. This is the fall. And then when Lucifer falls, let me just read this again. So this is Lucifer right here. Now cometh the glory of the single one as an imperfection and stain. So again, the stain, the imperfection, the one who sets himself alone apart from God, above God, right? That's pride. Okay? The next one is the weak one, but by the weak one, the mother was it's so hard to read this. It's such a weird sentence. But by the weak one, the mother was I can't even read this word right now. Equilibrated. I can't read that. I'm sorry, guys. Anyways, you guys can understand. It's balanced out. Okay. This is the weakening. This is the pride comes before the fall. Lucifer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations. That's the key word here, weaken. And that's why it says right here, but by the weak one. So this is the story of the fall. And if we go through each of these letters and we attribute each of these letters to both the spirit of God's spirit that hovers over the waters, the fall or Lucifer, and then just this process, right? And there's way more to talk about here, but I'm just talking about the first three process in this fall, okay? So let me just pull up the whole thing so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So again, this comes from verse 255, which is fallen angels equals 255, okay? But again, actually, I don't like this site as much as I like the other one. Hold on. Let me see if this is the one I want here. So here we go. Here's this whole thing so you guys can see it in a more clear way. Here is God's formless being. This is the Spirit of God hovering over the waters. There's no form, right? That's why it says, here is nothing under its three forms. There's nothing under its three forms. It is not. So that means it's not a form. God's not a form. He forms all things, but he's not a form. Okay? That's what this is saying. In the beginning, God, his spirit hovered over the waters, and then he formed all things. That's why it says, informeth, informs, to form something. This could also be to know something. Okay, so it is not, talking about God's spirit, it is not, because it's not a form, and yet it informs all things. Hopefully you guys are understanding that basic concept. And this is the symbol for that. This is the I. This represents the letter I. And so this is the second step. This represents the A or the L in the Kabbalah cipher, Lucifer. Now come the glory of the single one. Okay? The imperfection and the stain, the pride. That was the imperfection, right? The imperfection in Satan was his pride. The glory, he gave himself the glory. And that was his imperfection. So how much more clear does it need to be, right? It's exactly what they tell you, the Bible tells you. He gave himself the glory, and that was the imperfection. That was his stain found in him. The next one is he gets shot down. Okay? Okay, he gets shot down. He gets weakened. That's why when he falls, he weakens the nations. He comes down to basically cause chaos, right? And then after that, this impurity was divided. So there's your divide. There's your divide between the two, the prideful and the humble. There's a divide there. Okay. So again, this all goes through a whole process. And look what's next, the cross. And the cross was formulated in the universe that as yet was not. So there's your cross. But now the imperfection became manifest, presiding over the fading perfection. So now here is where the process happens, where the pride becomes manifest and it be presiding over God, putting yourself above God, essentially. This is the ultimate form of pride right here, this. So this is putting yourself above God's ultimate, Jesus, like this is a representation of that. That's why the line is above the two dots. Remember, the dots represent the spirit. Okay. Also, the woman arose. So that's the next step. The woman arose and veiled the upper heaven with her body of stars. So the woman is represented by the two lines forming over the stars. Basically, again, so you have the two prides. You have the one line with the, setting over the pride, and then you have the woman who comes in. This is, I believe, the Babylon. And then the giant arose of terrible strength. So here you go. This is the book of Revelation, guys, playing out. And asserted the spirit in a secret right. Something secret. So there's this whole process, guys. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, I don't think, but there's a whole process that's here. Okay? And each of these things can be understood biblically and in forms of our own lives. This is our own pride in our own lives that we can sometimes have. Okay? So let me just bring on Sean. Hold on a second. I think I'm done babbling. Hopefully you guys understood that. There's way more to it. I'm still understanding it myself, but I know I understand the first part. The first part's pretty clear to see. It's the very beginning of the Bible. It's the formless God's spirit hovering over the water, and then it's the fall that comes after that. Okay? Please hit those like buttons, guys, if you like the info. Again, I'm bringing you guys some deep stuff. I'm going in, I'm doing the research, I'm finding these things, and I'm showing you some stuff that I don't think anyone else is really showing. So there's way more to it. Like I said, this is a very complicated subject. These trigrams are very complicated. They're based off the I Ching. Yes, the balance is the balance between the yin and the yang, right? So that's the two forms. But the point is, the true reality is God's formless reality. God is not a form. He forms all things. So anything that's a form is not God. Anything is not the ultimate reality. It's not God's ultimate nature. So the yin and the yang together do not really represent fullness. There's a stain there. There's something missing. Why do you think the yin and the yang, also, if you look it up, so see how the yin and the yang symbol has the yin and the yang, right? And So that this basically see how there's a dot in the middle of the white? That means there's something missing. It's not full. It's not whole. Because there's a chunk out of it. There's some blackness in it. And it's the same with the yang, or the yin, sorry. This is the yin. There's a piece missing. So there's pieces missing in these. That's what this represents. This is not fullness. This is there's an imperfection here. There's an impurity. Because a form cannot be pure. Only God's form, which is formless, can be pure. And that was at the beginning. But as soon as everything fell, that's when it became, that's why we live in the world we live in, guys. That's why it feels the way it does to live sometimes. Because something's missing. It feels like something's missing. But the only way to fill that is to point your gaze on the one thing that is pure, and there's no missing. There's nothing missing from God's, from Jesus, right? That's what this whole thing was about. So that's what this, these things tell us. I think, Sean, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Yeah, I just had to say, like, the whole thing is so profound. Like, and you're right. Well, I think you deserve a lot of appreciation for doing all that research, because, like you said, I don't know if other people are willing to do that right now, and there's a whole lot to yeah, like, I guess all that stuff. Like, there's obviously, like, for you to be able to show how it actually does apply to the Bible, that's, like, so important. So, I mean, everything you're doing is just, you deserve a lot of credit for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to, again, do it in a way that's, you're really pointing people to God before pointing. Again, this is what the whole thing was about. Was, instead of just bringing the gematria here today, I wanted to kind of bring this, like, this understanding of this fallen concept of Lucifer falling, because that's like the first thing, like this first form. This is formless, but yet it informs all things. So it's that beginning before the fall, where the only way to return to that is to essentially give up the pride. That's why Jesus constantly says in the Bible, be like children, be humbled. There's this like balance that needs to come in, and it's just amazing how the way that this thing is set up, you can see it playing out. And even with the letters that they give it, like, there's even way more to this. I even had some other ideas that I didn't even put in this, but the main point was that the first three forms, or the first three letters, which is the I, which is the I am, and then there's Lucifer, and then there's which is the yang, and then there's the yin. And those are the opposites. And this is like, and those don't just represent female and male. Those represents all the opposites in the world, because the whole world is made of opposites, right? Mm. A formless reality is ultimately going to be full of opposites, because forms are ultimately divided. There's no getting around it. If you're a form, you're divided from something. Because if you have a border, if you have a body, you're divided from the world around you. You're divided from the others around you. So this ultimately, the yin and yang don't represent just masculine and feminine, like male and female. They represent the overarching idea that everything is bordered. That's why when Lucifer falls, he weakens the nations. And people probably think, oh, nations, they're just talking about weakening actual nations. No, I think what it wants you to understand is that the nation represents borders, which represents divisions. Okay, so when Lucifer falls, he weakens those divisions, which is also interesting to think about. But he himself is weakened because he's fallen. So there's this, and even if you go through the whole thing, there's more to talk about. I didn't even go through the whole thing, and I haven't even gone through all of it to figure out exactly what it's kind of pointing to. But I think the main point is the first three right now to really get into the people's heads. So yeah, I appreciate that, man. And I just wanted to kind of put that out there today because I've been thinking about this for a while. And then yesterday I kind of stumbled across more of it. And yeah, I thought you'd have some things to add too because of the 255s and some other things that I talked about. But so is there anything numerically you want to add, or is like what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I found some stuff that was pretty interesting. Let me see. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm tired of my screen. Yeah, it's you're much better at it than I am, so sometimes it's nice to let you take the reins.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Again, thanks to everyone who's in the chat still, and thanks for hearing me out and listening to all that. I know it's a bit deeper than what I normally do. And Joseph's in the chat. Much love, Joseph.
So this is something that came to my mind when you're talking about like the aspect of love and then the law. So I thought it was interesting how the verse about how love fulfills the law is Romans 13:8. And yeah, like Venus all about love. And what was more interesting is that the value of this verse is in Latin. I was looking at the Latin cipher. So it's 6293. And then if you go from 6293 to, because you know how like it was like 6-3 and 6-4, both of those days consist of the Revelation 12 sign pretty much.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting that from 6293 to the 64 is exactly 1618. Wait, 1618 weeks, like the golden ratio.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then that like that 1618, you've talked about it before, how it represents it's part of how the rose, it's part of the Venus rose, the golden ratio, the curve.
Yeah. And another thing I found interesting is I looked up the 255th verse of Revelation, and I think you'll find that really interesting because it's Revelation 15:6.
Huh.
That is the 255th verse of Revelation. And if you just, you read it, the 7 angels came out of the temple having 7 plagues. So you have that 7-7, like the Venus, the magic square Venus.
Right.
And it says clothing pure, white linen, and having their breasts girded with golden girdles. And that's interesting because this is actually something that Venus is associated with when you look up.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, so it's just like really on point.
Yeah, I mean, like I didn't mention Venus this whole decode, but obviously Lucifer. I've already laid that out in my prior decodes.
Exactly.
That Venus is clearly connected to Lucifer.
Yeah.
So like, and again, this also connects to Horus because I showed you this, Sean. Do you want to just go to the calculator and type in the word Horus and the word Venus to show people? Just in the base ciphers, just show them the complete match. Just the base 4 ciphers.
Oops.
Yeah, so as you guys can see, so again, going back to Crowley, Crowley, his whole religion is actually based off of a woman, Babylon, and Horus. Okay, and Venus, Lucifer, the morning star, whatever you want to call it, is a direct match in almost all ciphers to Horus. And if you look it up, that's the other thing is, I don't know if you can do that right now, Sean, because I don't know if it's so easy to find, but if you look it up, Venus is actually associated with Horus, not all the time in Egypt, but for some of the time later on in Egypt's history, Venus was literally associated with Horus.
Let me see.
So yeah, I guess it's Venus was depicted as two-headed morning god with human and falcon heads. It doesn't really say Horus there, but I think maybe if you click the actual art or the actual wiki page, it probably says it in there. That's a good point. Kevin in the chat says Horus, like for us. Yeah, right there it is. So Venus was depicted as two-headed morning god with a human and falcon heads, as in the Deandra zodiac, and associated with Horus. So there you go. Directly associated with Horus. And then if you go to the Gematria, what's the chances that Venus and Horus are a direct match? Almost. In fact, they really are a direct match, because the one cipher that they don't match in, Venus also has the 27 in the other cipher, so it's like it's perfect. And what Kevin just said in the chat was a very good observation. Horus, like whore, us. So again, Crowley's whole religion is based off of Horus. That's well, not all off of Horus, but that's one of his main subjects. So, and I exposed that in the decode I just did a few days ago on the Hawk-Tua girl. And why do you think they used a girl and called it Hawk-Tua and connected it to Horus? Right. So there you go, Venus again. But there's this hermaphrodite thing going on too, or this. I don't really want to say this word so much because my video gets tagged every time I talk about this subject. But like, it's just, you guys know what I'm talking about. The mixture of the two genders. Because sometimes Lucifer and even Venus in Egypt, Venus was actually originally associated also as a male figure, Horus. But in most mythologies, Venus is the feminine. So there's this confusion. There's this mixing that makes people confused. And people that are mixing their genders, they're obviously pretty confused. So that's why I'm feeling like this is kind of a representative of kind of even what's going on right now, because there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. Yeah, and what Kevin says again, Baphomet, right? So I think it's just a perfect example of what's going on. And someone's even mentioning Kamala. Yeah, and she's a Libra, right? And many people in my chat would say she's not even a woman. So like that, there's this theme that keeps coming up. And yeah, and that's just amazing too, what you just found with the girdle stuff, because that points directly to that verse where they mentioned the breastplate and the girdle. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, like the fact that that's the 255th verse of Revelation.
That's insane. That really is insane. That's an amazing find, because you know, and the word rose equals 255. Of course, Venus connected with the rose.
Yeah, so, and then also, when you look at the time of 255, it's the 175th minute of the day.
Oh wow! So that's Venus's magic square, man.
Yeah,
that's it right there. That's it big right there. And you know what? What's also interesting is that the magic square of the Libra, the book I was just reading out of, where the Trigrammaton came out of, it's based out of Liber 27, which is Venus, right? Venus equals 27. So the magic square associated with that would be the 27 by 27 magic square, which they talked about in some of the articles I was reading. And that equals 729. So that the magic square of the 27 by 27 is the 729. And apparently 729 is a huge number with Plato, which I didn't really get a chance to look into, but if you it's out there. Plato had a huge thing with the number 729. So there's a whole connection there. But basically what Sean's showing here is that the fact that 2 hours and 55 minutes into the day is 175 minutes, which is one of the numbers associated with Venus magic square. So
yeah, because it's like when you add every column, so if you 4 plus 29 plus 12 plus 37 plus 20 plus 45 plus 28, that equals 175. And then if you do that to every column is 175 and every row is 175. So
yeah,
it's really big. And then when you go to Revelation 17:5, that's where it talks about Mystery Babylon, which is really interesting.
Man, this is crazy.
So it's all strategically placed.
Yeah, you know what's also like super strategically placed is like how every time you're reading about Crowley, that the only verse they ever mention is verse 255. You notice that? Like everywhere I go, that's where I read is the 255. Like that's the verse they what's the chances of that's the one verse they mention, you know? And then this is the number that his book equals that, first of all, and then and it's just so crazy that this number was never even on my radar until we started decoding Seven's video and we realized it was 255 years later. And at the time I was like, okay, well, this number is probably just important because it's 255 years later. But we had no idea at the time that this number was coded way deeper than we ever realized, this 255.
Yeah, and then you were like talking about Crowley for like separately from that Revelation 12 sign. Like you were, finding the connections with Crowley and like the NBA finals and then the thing that happened with Trump and his his trial and all that. So you like that's what's funny is that you were seeing the Crowley stuff separately, and then it happened to line up perfectly with that.
Yeah, it all lined up with the Dallas Mavericks being in the finals because Dallas Mavericks equals 255, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just, I don't know, man. It just was crazy how it all ended up working out. That's how I know this is not me, man. I'm literally just being like used, like Decode Your Reality says. I'm just being used to show these things whenever it's like put into my heart to show them. And I have no idea why I'm doing it. Just like today, I'm doing this now. I have no idea why I'm doing it, but probably in the future, I'll look back and say, this is why I was doing this on this day. So it's like, and what Sven Dabs just said, Lucifer is the queen bee, and the word bee is 2, 5, 5. The letters 2, 5, and 5. Bee.
Yeah.
And of course, we know how important bees are to the world. I mean, without bees, we'd all die. And what's funny is my girlfriend, she just got stung by a bee the other day, and she's been in horrible like suffering the last few days because of. That's crazy, actually. Now I think about it, I was just doing a video about Beyonce, and then she gets stung, but her foot has been like killing her, like itching her so bad for the last 2 days. She couldn't sleep, and she's just been suffering. And I was like, it's just crazy that this connects also with that a bit, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are adding so much. First of all the people in the chat, some great comments. Luciferes in vaccinated humans equals 1613 in Latin and 255 in Latin ordinal. 1613 is 255 prime.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna look. Wait, Lucifer is in vaccinated human. So Lucifer's in. Oh yeah.
Huh. Well, that's
Wow.
interesting.
That's really cool.
Huh. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I was actually.
Oh,
Go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say there was one more thing I forgot to mention regarding the 255th verse of Revelation. So let me go back to that. 15:6. So when you look up the value of this verse, I think it's with when you put the phrase Revelation 15:6 in front. Yeah. So I thought it was interesting because of this number here, the 1510, because this has to do with Kobe, and you know Kobe has so many connections to Venus with his 81-point game and all that, and this was so the 1510th prime is 12641, like how he died on 26 at the age of 41, and when you go from his death, the day he died, to that the 6-3 date, it's 1590, and that when you look up Rose of Venus, it's 159.
But wait, isn't it if you just add the day, isn't it? Oh, I guess not. It'd be. Yeah, I was thinking it was 151, but I guess 10 more days later would be that, wouldn't it?
15. Well, it would have been, because it'd be 1510, so it'd be like.
Oh, that would have been before. Yeah, never mind.
But now I'm curious.
Oh wow, that's
Ides of
interesting.
March.
That's Ides of March. Huh.
But yeah, that just caught my attention. The 159.
Oh, look at this! In just a slice of pie says 255 equals 93. Wow. Well, there you go.
Oh wow. Oh yeah.
And in the same cipher as Liber Alvel Legis. So Liber Alvel Legis equals 255 and 93, and then when you type that number in, it equals 93 in the same cipher. So
that's crazy.
I mean, that's probably one of the connections to those numbers, I guess. That's a good find. That actually adds to the connection there.
Oh yeah, and then there's also something interesting I found. So the 93rd minute of the day is 1:33, and that was making me think about Revelation 13:3, which talks about the beast. And you mentioned in your last video, I think, or one of your last videos, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget, Crowley, connecting all back to that, he called himself the Great Beast. Or I don't know if he called himself that. I guess he did call himself that, but like.
Yeah.
And then if you take that in Greek, it equals 666. The Great Beast in Greek isosophy, or one of the Greek ciphers equals 6. Yeah, I think it's an isosophy equals 666.
Oh dang.
So yeah, that's interesting. Someone also said a while back something about that too. I think I forgot to. Yeah, I don't remember where it was. I just know someone in the back there said something connected to that, but I can't remember now.
To this verse?
No, what we were just talking about with the whatever we were just talking about, I just forgot that now. And my mind's all over the place today. I've been learning a lot of German lately, so I've got so much in my head right now, man. I've got all this research, and then I've got all this German stuff. So I think my mind's a bit it's a bit pooped out, I think. So sorry, guys, if I'm a little bit.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, it's just I told my girlfriend I'm cramming a lot in my head right now with numbers and languages. Okay. So 7's in the chat. Venus passed through the Beehive cluster on 6/12/2023, also known as Persepi or the manger. I don't know how to say that other word, but Praesepi. I've never heard of that, but it passed through the Beehive, huh?
Wow. That's interesting too, because we were talking like yesterday. We were OKC was bringing up a lot of connections with Jupiter and Beyonce, and I think Jupiter in Greek equals 612, or Zeus. Greek word. I think this equals 612 in Greek. Yeah. That's interesting.
Huh. Well, yeah, I mean that's interesting because I'm wondering how that might connect to like George H.W. Bush or something. Like he's born on 6/12, and then obviously his son was.
Oh, and then yeah, because that would have been his 99th birthday, and Jupiter equals 99 too.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that seems to connect. And you know what I saw interesting with this? So with these numbers, right? With these letters in this cipher that are numbered out, and then they have a archetype, or a tarot card, and they have an astrology sign dedicated to them. And I couldn't help but look at the letter V because I know I've been doing a lot of connections with V and Venus. Well, the letter V in that cipher is actually associated with, I believe it's Jupiter. Hold on, let me check that. But I think it's Jupiter that has the letter V in that cipher.
Do you want to take your? Do you want to switch screens?
Yeah, just for a minute. I guess I'll show them what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay, hold on. So again, guys, I was showing you how each one of these letters is associated with a tarot card and with a astrology sign or a god. And so Jupiter is associated with V, but V is the 22nd. So V is one of the letters in this cipher that remained the same, which I thought was interesting. Because normally V is the 22nd letter in the normal English alphabet, but in this alphabet, it also is the 22nd letter. But just notice that V is represented by Jupiter, the number 22, Jupiter, and the world card. So it's interesting too, because these things, I haven't been able to read through and figure out completely why all these things are placed where they are, but there is a reason. And it's interesting because normally the Wheel of Fortune is associated with Jupiter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's actually assigned to Gaia. So Gaia, which would be Earth. And that makes a bit of sense because gold and riches is found in mining, right? Gold and earth. So the tower is interesting too. So the whole tower thing, And I also found it really interesting that the moon is represented by silence. And it doesn't have a letter associated to it. It just has silence, which in the end kind of represents the first to the last, because the first letter, the letter I, has no value, which you could say is kind of like silence or no value, or, or emptiness or purity, I guess, in a way. But the moon at the end represents silence. So there's so much more to discover here. I mean, I think there is a whole wealth of information to discover in this cipher alone, and how this is set up. But I still haven't been able to completely wrap my head around it. Do you have any ideas, Sean? You see anything on there that intrigues you, or?
I really don't know. Like the whole thing is intriguing, but yeah, I don't know how I would like be able to interpret it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest part to interpret is the first three. Like I said,
Yeah.
this is the spirit that hovers over the waters, which is formless. You call it God's essence, right? And then this is the form. This is the first form. Like this, that's why it's number one, Yang. It's the first form. It's Adam.
Right.
And then it's Eve. And Eve is the one who weakened Adam, right? Because she sinned. So that's why it says, and then the yin comes. Need to go back. Yeah, you can compare this whole thing to the story of Adam and Eve too. So again, this is Adam in a way, could represent Adam as in the first form, and then the mother, or the feminine, is the weak one. She was weak, right? So it's interesting how you can apply this to both the Adam and Eve story, and also to the very first story, where you have the water, then you have because what's God do immediately after his spirit hovers over the water, right? And then he immediately, things start to be divided and forms. The only way you can have forms is by division. Again, it's a simple concept. The only way you can have two is there has to be a border. So there has to be a division somehow. There has to be borders. There's borders between you and me. Like our bodies, we can only feel each other's borders when we touch our skin. Like that's our borders, right? So everything is divided, and that's what God does for the 6 days. And then he rests on the seventh day, right? Which, again, there's probably so much more here, but I'm just kind of trying to lay it out so it's easy to understand as far as and this verse right here in Isaiah could also be very connected, with, the weakening of the nations and stuff. So I'm just trying to understand more about it. But again, this is probably going to be a month. It'll probably take me months and years to fully understand some of this.
No, but I totally see what you're getting at with that, like the weakening of the nations, because it's like the more nations are created by those borders, the weaker I guess the overall, because now it's like with more nations, that means they have more
divisions.
Yeah, and like more
more enemies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting too is if you look at the third letter, which is C in this alphabet, it also says to look at S and K. So there's an association here also with the letters S and K. And I haven't had a chance to really look into them, but my guess is there's probably some sort of association with the hard part is finding a good site, because this one, I don't like how it does it. It doesn't have it right. I don't know why it puts 3 lines there. Let me zoom in so people can see. It's supposed to be just a solid line from what I understand, but they have 3 lines, and then they have the 2. Yeah, there's just so much here, man. What's interesting too is this just adds even more additions to what I was telling you about. You have the weakened nations, right? And then immediately in the next form, it talks about division.
Wow.
So you have the purity. So there's your purity. This is, again, the same thing I'm talking about here. God's form, and then that's pure, unadulterated. God's form, God's purity, God's love, whatever. And then it's immediately, it says here, also the purity was divided by strength. So there's pride. I look at strength as pride. So pride causes purity to be divided. This is the force of the demiurge. So people always talk about the demiurge. Well, that demiurge could be that energy that's always wanting that to keep things, that masculine force that's always trying to keep things divided so it can stand above everything else. Like, you know what I mean? So it's strength that it shows. It divides things, you know. So it takes away from the purity. And then, of course, it goes to the cross, which was formulated in the universe that as yet was not. So X combines with K and S. So like there's so much here. Like I don't know. Anyway, we'll go back to the numbers, but and another thing I kind of wanted to point out was to you, Sean, specifically. I think you might appreciate this. So notice how this phrase that they give for the first, for Lucifer, like the first phase, represented by the letter L, it's the full thing that they write. He writes equals 855, and you'll maybe you recognize that, don't you?
It's a Venus. It's associated with
Yeah.
Venus. Right? Oh yeah, Venus. Yeah.
So
Oh wow.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
Horus is 855 backwards. You see that in the same cipher.
Oh wow.
And if you type in "love is the law, love under will," which is like one of the most famous sayings in Thlema, it equals 323, which is also Lucifer.
Oh wow.
So
yeah, that last phrase was the love is the law. Wait, love is the law, love under will. Yeah, that was what made me think of the Romans 13:8 verse about oh man, oh no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law.
exactly. Yeah. And the reason it says love is the law, because you're supposed to love your neighbor as yourself. That's the golden rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the law.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it under will? Because love is under will, because God's will is above all. Because this is, again, the word will in Thelema does not represent our will, our individual wills, like, oh, I want to be a pilot, or I want to be this or that. It's not just our own will. It's the will of God. It's the will of the ordained, what God ordains, his will, the overarching will of everything. So love is the law, and it's fulfilled, just like what you said. What verse is that again?
Romans 13:8.
Let me go KJV. So again, owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. So this is like, how much more obvious can it be that what Thelema is connected to is what this is saying? Love is the law. You fulfill the law by loving. And then this last phrase gives glory to God by saying love under will. So even that love that I love one another, I should also love God's will for whatever. basically surrendering love, surrender that love to God, not just because, okay, so we know that there's different types of love in this reality. We all know people that say they love us and it would do anything for us, but like, is that really true? They just love you because they want something in return, or what's the true, like, what is the true love? How can you understand if someone's love for you is true, right? Well, it has to be agape. It cannot be a romantic love, because romantic love is conditional. Like, a lot of people say they love somebody because they get physical needs met, right? Or is that the reason we love somebody, just because we get physical needs met? Or do we really recognize the other as ourselves? Do we really love them agape love, which is not conditional to, oh, I love them because they give me something, or I love them because there's a physical attraction, or what is that love? So love is the law, love under will. And I think it does really sum up, this verse. And it's just so crazy that it's verse 13:8, man. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the only God's love is going through you is pure. Your love, your will never be able to truly precipitate a real love. It will always be what's the word I'm looking for? It'll always be a conditional love. It will never be like a true fullness, right? And sometimes in love is not just sometimes love is tough, right? It's not always dandy either. So I guess that's the kind of the discipline aspect of it, maybe, like just kind of learning.
And then like the love that we I mean, I guess it's just reiterating what you just said, but yeah, like the love that we can kind of conceive, or the most, I guess, like is most widely known by humans, that is like the love of like loving something that's like perceived as separate from you.
Yeah.
So that's like, that's different. That has to be different, because then that would have to be different than agape love, because agape love is like with only God, with only love, with yeah, just the oneness of God, like and then I guess like creating the world through love. It was like through his own self, because then I guess it's just like something we can't conceive, because we haven't really like reached that awakening. Or I mean, like, I think we can understand it, but it's like, I think experiencing that, like fully grasping that like oneness, and then having that kind of, it's like a different kind of love than I think that we understand right now.
Well, I think, like, kind of I understand where you're getting at. Like, so picture, like, so if you're surrendered to God's will in your life, which means you're not even loving with your own love anymore. You're not loving with your egotistical, prideful love, because this is kind of what that is. It's like it's all conditional. So if you're born again, which is the concept, right, of surrendering, dying to yourself, which means being pretty much killing yourself, and only now living through you is the Spirit of Christ, right? So this represents, why is this love higher? Because essentially the Christ in you sees the Christ in the other. Okay. And then this love is like, of course, this love is going to be pure, because there is no fault in this type of love, because this is the true love. This is God's love. Again, that first aspect that I revealed to you guys is the formless, but it's also the purity. It's pure. So can we always truly live by that? Because when we're in the flesh, so we have moments of weakness, but at the same time, if we are in the spirit, right, then if we're loving through the spirit, if we're surrendered, we're loving the other, we're seeing the other for how they truly are, that love is going to be pure. So our actions towards that person are going to be not for anything in return, or not to accomplish any agendas, but just to make sure that the will of God be performed in that love.
Yeah.
So, and even Jesus said, here, this is Matthew, I guess it's Matthew 7:12. Hold on. I always forget to type in KJV. Always wants to come up with the New International Version.
Mhm.
Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do you even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets. So yeah, again, like the do unto them, do ye even so to them. So this is the law, the golden rule. And so yeah, that's God's law of surrender. And I think that's just the whole example of what Jesus is meant to example of. He dies to the flesh, the fleshly desires, which was ultimately the fleshly desires is only going to get you you're only going to be able, if you're in the flesh, if you're in that fleshly desire, you're only going to be able to give a superficial love. That's just the point. It's going to be impure.
Right.
Because that which is impure can never be pure. That's the point. Is pureness can never be impure, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be pure. Or if it's impure, it can never be pure, because it's ultimately impure. That's what also the yin and yang represents too. I tried to point that out in the beginning. The yin and the yang, people always say, they're always focused on the overall thing, but they don't always look, those little dots in the middle, those are like telling the story. That's impurity.
Yeah.
And they're always fighting with each other, going in circles, fighting with each other, because they're trying to fill a hole which can never be filled. So they go around and around. That's just the backwards, the back and forth of the opposites, with the impurity in the middle.
Yeah.
It's funny that they show one here without those. I've never seen one without those.
Mhm.
Have you ever seen one without without the?
I don't think so.
Interesting. But yeah, that's, and that also not only shows impurity, but it also shows that it could also show the fact that this person, right, this energy, whatever opposite this represents opposites. Doesn't matter what the opposite it is, but within itself, it has a bit of the other. So it can be looked at multiple ways. In this white, which is the opposite of black, it still has a bit of the black in it. So can it really say that it's different from this?
Right. Right.
And that's the understanding. Is as soon as you understand that even though you may not want to realize it, you have a bit of the other in you. You have a little bit of that darkness that you're fighting against inside of you. Or in the opposite case, you have a little bit of that whiteness in you that you're fighting against. So there's multiple ways to look at it, but I think both ways are beneficial.
Yeah. I was also thinking when you were bringing up when you're breaking down the name of Lucifer, and then how like the end is like the devil. Remember, or like you become. I I think one way that I might interpret that is like, um, I think it's also when you when you realize that, like, when you take accountability for everything, you know, when you realize that you've been your own devil, I guess, like um when when you step up to the plate, and then you realize um that you're the only one to blame for um anything, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's interesting because what I thought was interesting about that is that the last letter is R, and it also represents Saturn, which could also be connected to Satan, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people connect Saturn to Satan, or that could be representing time as well. Um, but yeah, there's definitely more. The first three to me are pretty clear, and like what you said, I think that's a good way to look at it, is some sort of an accountability. Because I mean, in reality, when you're accountable, and others find out, they might look at you as a devil if they find out maybe what you've done or what you've been hiding, or there is accountability to it. So like sometimes you feel like the devil if you done something wrong and you feel guilty for something. So, and I just find it interesting that Saturn is also, because Saturn of course is equals 93. And Saturn has this 741. And 741 is also associated with Lucifer, because 741 is the 38th triangular and Lucifer equals 38. So it's interesting that the word Lucifer ends with the devil, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like this is just such a crazy concept to me that I never would have thought of, but like it's so mind-blowing. And there's probably way more to find here, but just that Lucifer starts with the L, which is the first form, which is the yang, which is the impurity, like the first one, and then the tower, like the fall, and then the weakening or the humility, and then right in the center of that you have the I. And then of course it just make perfect sense the way that it's just set up, this word, if you look at it like that. So yeah, I find it really interesting. And I never really noticed though either that the letter I is right in the center of Lucifer.
Right.
It'd be interesting to add up the amount on either side. Well, yeah, I guess it would be, so wait, 1, 27, 28 on this side, 12 plus 13, 25, 39. Did I do that right? 12 plus 13, 25, 14, 39. So yeah, 39 value on this side of the I and 28 on this side. Interesting.
Hmm.
You know what I find interesting about that? That there's 28. There's 28 on the one side.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
And you know how the word Lucifer ends with the R, which is represented by the devil
Mm-hmm.
or Satan, you could say, and that's the 14.
Oh yeah.
So there's this Chaldean cipher. You can never forget this cipher. It's one of the organic syncs I have in this cipher are crazy, and I've seen a lot of stuff line up perfectly with this. So, and Satan in Chaldean, right? So Satan equals 14, and God.
That is interesting.
So I think, let me just look and see if there's any other 14s. Like magic, spelled the way Crowley, Kubala.
Oh wow.
Hey, your name, Sean. Your name's bro. Look at this,
Oh, what
Sean.
the heck? That's crazy because I was telling Casey a few weeks ago. So I turned 377 lunar months exactly the day that the first episode of Moon Knight, and that's the 14th Fibonacci number.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. So you're that's interesting, man, because both your names equal 14. And
Wow.
look, the name I gave myself, which is not my real spelling, it equals 14. What the heck? So Kubala equals 14 and luck equals 14. I think, doesn't Osiris equal 14? Time equals 14.
Wow.
Birth, dog, of course, because dog's an anagram of God.
It's
I think
interesting how
Osiris.
like I was gonna say, yeah, it was interesting how Seven's findings on the 14 led to that the Revelation 12, the anniversary of the Revelation 12 sign.
Yeah. I mean, his findings was what really started all this, with the 255.
Yeah.
Is he in the chat still? I don't know if he's still in there, but anything else you want to add, man?
Um let me see. I have an interesting, I guess I could share something interesting. Just like going off of the Venus stuff. Can I share my screen again?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I was like, this is actually, I think this might be the next video I make. I've been like sitting on it. It's about like Jennifer Lawrence again.
Okay.
So did you know that? Did you know she was in this movie? Mother.
Oh yeah, I did actually. But that's crazy because I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that made me think of Revelation 17:5 again, which is about like the mother of harlots, and then the like we just mentioned the 17:5, and then all the stuff we found about her connections to Venus already. But I thought it was interesting that I had just found the value just of this phrase, just because if you read it, it's upon her forehead was a name written. So I just took that and I got I think it's the keypad I'm going to be looking at. Yeah, so if you see the phrase is 335.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so just keep that in mind. And if you go from, when was this movie released? Okay, so when you go from her birth to this date, so 8/15/1990 to 9/15.
Oh wait, she's born, or that movie's on 9/15, like 159, like Venus Rose.
Yeah. Where was it? Yeah. I think this is right. Okay, so when you find the lunar months, oops. So you do 9893 divided by 29.53. So she was born 335 lunar months, or she turned 335 lunar months when that movie came out, the day that movie came out. So she turned 335 lunar months when Mother released, and again the phrase this phrase equals 335 in keypad.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy.
I mean, we know that this Jennifer Lawrence, guys, in case you haven't seen my video on her, but I mean, I don't know if there's anyone more connected to Venus than her. Just the fact that she was, what was it? I can't even remember now. On 9/11, she
Oh,
was,
18 Venus years? Wasn't
yeah.
that it?
Yeah, and then Venus was at 18 degrees of Leo at that very day. Like, and
Yeah.
she's a Leo. So, like, there's no one in my mind more coded with Venus than her. Like, maybe Taylor Swift could be. I don't know. Because Taylor Swift has some, man, I can't remember now off the top of my head, but she has some crazy connections with the Queen and Venus. It's whenever her and the Queen are born apart, there's something that connects there. But
Oh no, I remember what it was. So you told me that she was born. I'll just look up the births. Wait, 21.
Queen's born 4/21, 1926. Taylor
Yeah,
Swift's born
12,
December
13.
13th, 1989.
So 3 3 3 21 weeks,
Oh
and that's
yeah.
the
Uh-huh.
81st triangular number, and
Yeah.
Venus 81.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty perfect. Considering Taylor Swift also has a song called Lover. She's played in the movie Valentine's Day, which of course connects to Venus. She has this love stuff which all connects to hearts and Venus and Valentine's Day. And there's probably way more to Taylor Swift than Venus, but I would still say that Jennifer Lawrence, based off of what I found so far. I mean, you even showed that, Sean. You even showed her in the movie. In the movie, Don't Look Up, she even says Venus, and then
Yeah.
in the Hunger Games, the new one, which she played in the original one, but in the new one, they even mentioned Venus in that. I've showed that, and then yeah, and it's just crazy too because if you go to the Francis Bacon ciphers, like the girl who Lucy Greybeard, the girl in the new Hunger Games equals 138, like the Venus Rose. So it's like,
Yeah, and then Don't Look Up was 138 minutes long.
yeah.
Well, it's funny because it was 138 minutes long, and I think that equates to 2 hours and 25 minutes. So it's like it was like double coded to Venus in that way
Yeah.
because of Rose cipher was it again standard. Oh, Rose is 225 in Latin, and
Yeah.
then uh, how so yeah, 2 hours 25 minutes, and that equals 138 minutes. I think it's in the Wikipedia. Yeah, 138 minutes.
That's insane how that. Yeah, that's insane right there. That just brings all the numbers together, really.
Yeah.
Man, it almost released on 12/25 too on Netflix.
I know. I was thinking that too. I was like, they're like,
Well, if you think about it, it probably released in 12/25 in half of the world, in Australia and stuff.
right.
Or maybe it didn't. I don't know. It depends on what time of day maybe it was at midnight on the morning, so maybe not, but still it's so close.
Yeah.
Also, have we looked at, considering the 138 number? Have I looked into it a bit way back, but have you heard of the song "We Are 138"?
No, I haven't.
Oh yeah, type that in.
What the heck? What the heck?
Yeah, I don't know. There's something there for sure. I remember looking into it for a bit because I was like, I mean, anytime they put a number in the title of a song, I mean, it's automatically it's something there. But like this number, just take can you just copy the name of the song, Sean? We Are 138 and see what it equals, because I think there might be something that I found at one point. I just can't remember it. So you'd never seen this song before?
No, I've never heard of it.
Maybe type in Misfits with it, like the name of the band, and We Are 138. Interesting. It equals 1020, like Kamala's birthday there. There was something I found once. That's 201 in keypad.
Oh yeah.
Also, yeah, I don't know. I need to look more into this, and maybe if
Oh,
you have
actually,
time.
okay. I think all right. So here, so this, when you look at the prime factors, it's 3 times 11 times 11. That's the second, fifth, and fifth primes.
Yeah, that's good. Not to mention that's a divisor of 121 too.
So that's 3 times 11 times 11. And this is the date. It's interesting because this is the date of the Fukushima disaster, March 11, 2011.
Right.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That does just break down into that 255 again.
Yeah.
So 7 is saying on the Thelemic calendar we are in the year X, or Wheel of Fortune. I'm not sure which calendar. It must not tie into what I showed earlier, because that's different on what I was showing. But another thing that really intrigued me, though, did you see what I was saying, Sean, about how when you take these two antigrams in the base 3 and you write them out in base 3, and then you find their antigram, which is basically, I guess, the opposite, and then you find the value between both, and then like it showed the number 204 minus 156, because in base 3 those numbers are antigrams, opposites.
Mm-hmm.
So you subtract the 204 minus 156, you get 48. And then it said that, and then he even wrote there that it could be that associates those two numbers with the 48th day of the calendar year. So I'm guessing that means that there's a whole process of how there must be something there, because if you think about it, day 48 of the Thelema year, let me see what that is, because it starts on 320. I'm getting a bit sidetracked here, but I think it's interesting because I just don't know how to figure out what the opposites are in the base 3, because I don't fully understand it yet. Okay, so 48 days into the Thelema year is actually May 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And May 7th is the 128th day of the year. We know how that number has been always coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering wondering, I don't know. I don't know where to even find, like how to figure out the opposites in the base 3. I don't know if you just go one number forward and backwards and that's the opposites again, because I kind of tried that. 7-1 says check out his previous comment. Hold on. Sorry, I'm missing I'm missing a lot of comments, guys. I'm sorry. How far back is it? I don't see it.
I remember seeing something.
So there's this one. I found the one where he says the one that's up on the screen. So there's one before that.
Yeah, I think it was like I think it was at 12:44 p.m. 12:44, or no, the time is different on yours, huh?
Oh, at 12:44. So I have to go back to 9:44. Hold on. Good memory, Sean. Jeez.
No, I just look back. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh.
I think it's the one he's talking about.
I think the proper Thelemic expression for the date June 3rd, 2024 would be the sun in Gemini, moon in Taurus, Anno V 10-year Wheel of Fortune in the cycle of Hierophant. Huh. Interesting. I guess that's going a bit over my head. What do you understand, Sean?
Let me see.
I mean, I understand the sun in Gemini part. I understand the moon Taurus, but I'm not sure how. I guess I got to find where he's finding that, because I want to look into it. So
Could you just ask what year is it on the Thelemic calendar?
yeah, that's the wrong.
I'm not even spelling Thelemic right.
Yeah, there's the right spelling, Thelemic.
This is a Wheel of Fortune.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, sorry guys in the chat. We're trying to figure something out, but I'll flash some of your comments on the screen so people can read. Well, let's put it this way: the first Thelema year technically started on March 20th, 1904.
Right.
But I'm not sure how to figure out all the. Let's see. And I think there's no doubt in my mind that the whole thing with this year's eclipse on 4/8 was like super connected with that thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It is a bit crazy. I just typed in, well, that's interesting too, because you know how I was telling you about the 5/7 date, which is 48 days after the Thelema New Year.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that 5/7 this year was 120 years and 48 days after the first, Thelema.
Oh yeah.
So that was like eclipse equals 120, and the eclipse was on 4/8 this year. That's
Wow.
That is interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I guess I don't have my screen up so people can't see, but
Oh, you can switch back.
yeah, I just forgot I wasn't even on my screen. You can leave your screen up, and I can just click back on it after you're done. But yeah, so Thelema, so you guys can see that the first day. Oh, okay, 7. I read that too. 7 saying, hold on. He's saying that it's kind of complicated to calculate, but they go in 22-year cycles. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say about the whole knowing thing. I completely forgot that. So you know how the movie Knowing came out on 320, right? And it's all about the sun and solar flares and solar sunspots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I read something in one of these Thelema writings that says because it's obvious that their calendar is based off the sun, right? Because like the whole thing is 93 days after their new year is the summer solstice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a 22-year cycle in the sun for sunspots. Like the sun is 11 years, but then the full completed cycle takes 22 years.
Wow.
So and this is connected to sunspot. Let me just see if I can pull it up here. Hold on. 22-year sunspots cycle. So a 22 periodicity in sunspot activity is naturally produced by the 22-year magnetic dynamo cycle in the presence of a relic magnetic field, according to a persistent 22 periodicity in the sunspot activity. So hold on, that's a bit complicated. The sunspot cycle happens because of these pole flips. North becomes south, south becomes. So there's your yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
There's your yin and yang right there. Your pole flips. North becomes south, south becomes north approximately every 11 years. Some 11 years later, the poles reverse again back to the way they started. So the full back to where you started full cycle thing is 22 years.
I see.
And this is crazy because the whole movie Knowing is about a solar flare, which is caused by sunspots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I never understood, for the life of me, I never understood why that movie came out on 320. I could never understand why they picked that date because to me, I didn't see anything connected. And now I completely understand it. Because
Crazy.
again, knowing equals 93. And you know what's even crazier, Sean, how I've talked to you about how pure knowing is like consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
God's pure knowing. That's why I believe that this is also 93.
Yeah.
That represents that first stage. I mean, to me, 93 is one of the biggest numbers. Like it's a big number. So like there's knowing, right? And then in that movie, there's the solar flare. Flare equals 93. And makes me wonder about the cryptocurrency flare. The cryptocurrency flare is connected to XRP. It was connected with XRP, and remember the XRP got sued on the Great Conjunction, or right one day after the Great Conjunction, they got their lawsuit. But 12 days before that, or not 12 days, 10 days before that, on 12/12/2020, there was a flare snapshot where everyone that held XRP in their wallets, they got a snapshot of their wallets, and then they got this free flare. Yeah, so it seems to be connected.
Wow.
And I'm just wondering if the solar flare will be what takes out the grid at some point, or what they blame on it,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's probably and this you've already connected this to the rose theme, with this girl.
Yeah.
Let me see what 7. Oh, 7 says he can jump on. I'll put the link in the chat. Thank you to all the 79 that are still sticking around, and thank you guys for the 108 likes. If you guys still haven't hit the like button, please do so. But I appreciate all those likes. I'm gonna step away for a second, Sean. Go to the bathroom. But I don't know if you wanna. You wanna share your screen again so you can have control while I go for a second.
Sure.
Yeah, 7's on here too. I'm gonna step away for a second, but you guys can chat while I go for a sec.
Okay. Yeah, there, 7.
Yeah, hey, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I was just going to show you guys how to calculate the date on the Thlema calendar.
Awesome.
But real quick though, you were talking about that movie Knowing,
Yeah.
And the girl that writes the ciphers or the numbers on the piece of paper, her name is Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're talking about Lucifer and
Oh yeah.
Thlema, yeah. And then I was going to say that the Thlema calendar goes by 22-year cycles. So I left a comment there in the section, but so from 2024 is 5 22-year cycles. So that would be expressed as V, and then it's 10 plus 10 years. So V10 is 2024.
Okay.
And then the date is whatever the sun is in, the astrological sign the sun is, and then whatever astrological sign the moon is the day. So month is the sun, moon is the day, and then the V is the cycle. So V10, the V is the cycle of the Hierophant, which is the 5th tarot card, and then 10 for 10 years is the year of the Wheel of Fortune card. So X. So that's how you express a Thelemic date. So we're in the Wheel of Fortune year in the cycle of the Hierophant, and then that's kind of it's like 5 lines to express a Thelemic date. So
wow.
it's a little complicated.
Hey, 7, I just stepped away and I just got back and heard a bit of that, but so there's I don't want to make you repeat it, but
so from starting at 1904, you go it goes in 22-year cycles. So we have 5 22-year cycles. So just think of it this way: 110 years ago was 1904.
Right.
Or excuse me, 120 years ago. So that's 120 breaks down to 5 22-year cycles plus 10 more years. So you have the V for 5 and then the 10. So there's the 2024 would be V10. And then for June 3rd, the June 3rd would have been, I think, Gemini, or was that what I put on there? Anyways, that would be, the month is the sun sign, and then the moon sign is the day. Okay. And then the V, the V is the cycle. So like the V10, we're in the cycle of the Hierophant, and then the 10 is the year on the tarot. So it would be 10, which is the Wheel of Fortune card. So year of the Wheel of Fortune in the cycle of the Hierophant. So it's like a 5-line expression on how to do a Thelemic day. So
no, that makes more sense now. I get it more now, and that's interesting that we're 5 cycles of 22, because that goes right back to the 225 stuff. It's all this 225, 522. And I keep seeing those numbers a lot: 225, 522, 255. So
right, 5 22-year cycles, and then that's how you express V10. So so then 2026 would be V11. I'll leave a link. I don't know if I can leave a link in your chat or not, but it's on Thlema 101, and then there's I think a link for a calendar. But then it gets kind of complicated. But once you just kind of break it down, and then the tarot. the order of the 21 tarot cards, you can kind of express it all. But
yeah. Yeah, and I was just, I don't know how much you saw of the beginning where I was showing the this cipher, the Trigrammaton Kubala, and how that cipher is lined up differently with the cards. So I don't know if how much of that you saw. I still don't even fully grasp all that, but it's definitely interesting, and I'm definitely wanting to look more into this whole thing with the Thlema calendar and all that stuff. So
yeah, I did catch a little bit of the beginning of your live stream, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's super interesting. You know, I mean, obviously he was grasping at concepts that were, you know, just like they say, you know, he was kind of grasping concepts from beyond our realm, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and then just the way that these ciphers are lined up too. That the cipher I showed in this, the Trigrammaton.
Is that cipher on the Gematrinator if you like on a paid level?
I think it's paid. Yeah, I think it's like on the paid tier. Yeah, because I don't, Sean, you don't have that cipher, do you?
I don't.
Man, we need to get Derek to set you up with something at least.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I should get that. I should get this because you get the astrology calculator too. I think when you go to a paid level, you know, it'd make my life a lot easier. You know, anyone you know who was trying to calculate that stuff, it makes a lot easier than because I'm still doing it by, you know, just calculating the numbers. But whatever,
Yeah.
both ways works.
Yeah, I like having it. You know, like it's really added a lot to my. It's like a toy. It's like a new toy for me. So, but
there's some interesting things I wanted to share of like connecting knowing to 811 if it's cool. I do that real quick. Wait,
yeah.
7, did you ever I don't think I made like a full video on it, but have you ever heard when I mentioned that the two main characters, Nicolas Cage and Rose Byrne, they're born 811 weeks apart?
No, I didn't hear that, but I was talking to Bobby and he had mentioned that you had mentioned that to him, and then it's really funny because I've looked at that. It's one of my favorite movies, and I just watched it maybe like a couple weeks ago. And if you look at the beginning of the movie when the numbers are fading in and out, like at the beginning of the movie, like the last time they fade out, like the number 811 is the like last three that are highlighted.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like I took a while to get the screenshot of it because I was like watching those numbers fade in and out because they were kind of, you know, all these numbers were on the introduction or the beginning of the movie. But yeah, if you catch it at the right exact time, 811 is like the three numbers that are highlighted. So yeah, but yeah, I didn't know that. And when Bobby told me you found that, I was like, you know, obviously the sun connection, because I always talk about the volume of the sun being, you know, 10 times what, you know, it matches up with the exact reverse of the Revelation 8:11, you know, verse and number and stuff. So
yeah, let me see if I could
and Sean, did you mean to pull up a picture with Nicolas Cage and a rose in his mouth? That's so random.
No, okay, that's the thing. I realized that like after we were doing all the rose stuff, then I was like clearing out some of my pages, and then I still had it up, and then I saw that he had a rose in his mouth, and I was like, wait a minute, I did not catch that the first time. But
that's crazy, man. Of course, that's like what, just randomly.
Yeah, it's like the first thing you just type in Nicolas Cage, and then
like what in the world?
Yeah, but yeah, so what 7 is mentioning, where's that? So he's connected the sun.
okay, so they changed that on Wikipedia because just like literally like the day I watched that movie, which was like 3 weeks ago, I noticed that they changed. Look at the volume. It used to be 10 times 10 to the 4, 10 times 40 to the 41st, and then times, yeah, I can't remember how it's expressed. I'd have to look at I have it saved somewhere, you know, but they have changed it they changed the volume in the last, whatever, I don't know when, but somewhat recently.
Yeah.
But it used to be perfectly match up with the reverse numbers of, eight. It was 141 and then 118.
Yeah, I remember that. And
And
there's another
obviously
thing.
we're told the sun is the closest star, right? So I mean, our closest star is is the sun. So when you're talking about the Wormwood star, our most familiar star is the sun. So
Mm-hmm. And this is another thing too, just with that movie, you're mentioning the girl who like in the very beginning who writes the codes, like her name. Her name, what was her
it was like Lucy,
in the movie, right? That was
Lucinda, right? Lucinda. I
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
was.
yeah.
And then it's interesting. 811. Of course, you have to call. Like 811 is the national call before you dig, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they put the her letter with all those predictions in the time capsule underground, right? So it's like,
Nice. Dang, that's good. Yeah.
I mean, and then it's in a star, so it's like, and then and then where they put it in the ground, like it's in like the whole thing kind of looks like a star. It's like a compass, where they actually bury it and put it in the front of the school there. So I mean, it's like if you know a little bit about Wormwood and the stuff, I mean, it's like they're just screaming it at you. And then when Bobby told me that the Rose Byrne and Nicolas Cage were 811 weeks apart, I was like, that just seals the deal that the whole movie
For sure.
is like is all about that. So
yeah. And what were you gonna say?
Oh no, nothing. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say there's something I found recently with her, which is like really fascinating. So remember how we were talking about like the Ohio train derailment and how the date it connected to the 138 because it was the train derailment was on 2/3/23.
Okay.
And so you have this like this train thing, and then do you remember and it ties into the whole thing with the year of the Wheel of Fortune and Jupiter, because do you remember when the founding member or the founder of the band Train died?
Oh, I do remember that. I can't remember the dates, or I can't remember his name, but let me just give you a little bit of information. You know the cause of that derailment? Do you know what the cause was?
No.
An overheated wheel.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So like there were like, yeah. So that was like the cause of the derailment was an overheated wheel. So like a bearing, whatever, a bearing failed and derailed.
But it's weird because I still see different dates. Like some I see the date that he died was 5/22. Some say 5/23, but I think 5/23 was when it was announced. It was one of those things where it was announced the day after, and so I think he actually died on the 22nd, May 22nd.
Oh,
So
okay.
so you have that 225, and so with all that train stuff, so that girl from going back to the girl from Knowing, or is it Laura?
What is okay? So is 5/23? Is that the 143rd day of the year?
I think so, yeah.
And then I think if you take 143 and add all the permutations of 143, I think it sums to 1776. I think, if my memory is serving me right. But
Oh, interesting. But what I was gonna when you go from her birth to the day that so if you go to 522, so 11998 to 522. So she turned 1377 weeks.
oh wow,
Yeah.
oh wow, that is crazy.
Yeah. Just like how it all like just the whole thing with Train, the founding member of Train, and then the train derailment, how that connected to the 138 and then all that.
Yeah, it
I
seemed
mean,
like 2023 there was like a ton of train stuff in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that
how insane is it?
1377, that's. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say it's really crazy too. She's born on January 1st.
Yeah.
You know, like of the 1998. Isn't that the year where you add 666 times 3? Is that what it is?
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, what is it again? Six. I forget.
Isn't
I
it?
forget. But I know when you take the permutations of 612, that was so 612 plus 621 plus 126 plus 162 plus 216 plus 261, 1998. So it has all the permutations of 612. So like,
Yeah,
that has to do
it's
with
also
the.
666 times 3 is 1998.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. But the Jupiter
So
thing's in the. It was interesting with the. I guess with the 612 because of Jupiter, and then again connecting to that thing with the drops of Jupiter, and then Zeus equals 612 in Greek. It's pretty interesting.
You know, when you're talking about Nicolas Cage, doesn't he has his tomb already like picked out and built, and it's like a pyramid.
What is it?
really?
Yeah, and it's like I think it's in I want to say Louisiana or Illinois. Yeah, if you look it up, like it's kind of a kind of a famous thing. He already has like his tomb or whatever
Oh,
you want to call it,
really?
mausoleum built, and it's like I'm pretty sure it's a pyramid. If you just look like a Nicolas Cage tomb, I'm sure it'll show up. But I can't remember if it's in Louisiana or
Oh, that's
Illinois. Yeah, there it
what
is.
the heck? That's so weird. That's so interesting.
That's crazy, man.
But
And he was
is it in Louisiana or New Orleans or do you know
I
where
think
that?
it's in New Orleans. New
Well,
Orleans.
it's funny because we're gonna have the Super Bowl, in New Orleans,
yeah,
and
something big.
and you're talking about like rose and rise, like rise, like if you stand up, you're rising,
Hmm.
you know, and like in the Bible, it says when Jesus returns, that the dead will rise. Well, like Louisiana or like New Orleans, and I think all their burials are above ground because of the water table, you know. So I was thinking like the dead are risen in New Orleans, because there's no underground burials.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, just the fact that it's a pyramid is also insane because he was in the movies National Treasure, which like just reminds me of like hidden secrets and like all-seeing eye pyramids and like yeah, just like
Yeah,
I don't know.
When you were talking about, I kind of missed part of your first part of your presentation, but you're talking about Horus and the symbolism and stuff like that. I'm gonna do a video pretty soon on my channel, and I'm gonna like I don't know, I'm gonna kind of float the idea of talking about like an experience I had back in 2017, and like I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if I want to share it. I've shared it with Bobby, but it's it's pretty crazy. I probably should share it on my channel, but uh, it was such a wild experience, that, and it has to do with like the eye and awakening and stuff. But I think I might do that. I'm gonna kind of just float the idea on my channel and see if there's any interest in hearing of that, because it happened to me in 2017, and like it's like changed my life since then. And anyways, but I just wanted to share that because I don't think there's very many people that have had this experience. So, but it has to do with what all you were talking about in the beginning of your live stream today. So I thought it was kind of interesting. But if to tell the story, well, like I said, I'm not sure how to tell it, but I kind of want to share it because it would be interesting for people to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think I speak for Sean probably and me. I think we both would like to hear. I mean, we both have seen so many crazy things and especially with Sean, man, his stuff has been crazy. So like, yeah, I mean, I think it would be awesome to hear like these type of from more people, you know, like more people sharing their like really organic, crazy synchronicities is always something I like to hear. So
Yeah, you know, my channel started and I did not know Casey or Bobby. And, you know, after a couple of years of doing my channel, you know, I met him through a comment on one of my videos or something. And then, you know, he introduced me to the, you know, astronomical / astrological, you know, part of all of this. And then that, like, once you learn that and kind of see, you know what I mean? Then that expanded my understanding. And then that led to like videos like with the Revelation 12 sign or the moon landing. And then, you know what I mean? And then I met, you know, then Sean stumbled onto my channel. You know, everything's kind of just like has gone like is snowballed perfectly. And then up to the, you know, current date when you're still talking about the 255. But, you know, I would have never figured out the Revelation 12 sign if I hadn't met Bobby and he taught me about you know, the way, you know, astrological alignments and astronomical, you know, alignments. So it's just kind of interesting looking back from the beginning of my channel, how it's progressed, and then the people I've met and the, you know, the different tools I've learned, you know, not just, you know, it started out with maybe gematria or date calculation, and then gematria, then astrology, and then, you know, other things. So yeah, it's pretty cool when you start looking at the organic path that everyone's kind of like exploring right now.
Yeah, I never got to ask you, but how did you stumble upon the 811 stuff in Wormwood?
You know, I a long time ago, for some reason, in Bible school, or not Bible school, like Sunday school, which I did not like going to or anything, but I remember asking something like the teacher was like trying to teach a bunch of 8th grade kids that probably don't really want to be there. And I was like, well, let's talk about this wormwood star that, you know, hits the earth. And, you know, I mean, I wanted something interesting, you know, and that for some reason has always stuck with me. And then back in 2015 or 16 or whatever it was, I don't know, I just looked at it and I was like, I started numbering the books of or the verses of Revelation, because I was, you know, looking at other channels, you know, doing all this number stuff. I thought, well, I'm just going to start, you know, numbering stuff and looking at it. And I started with my favorite verse, quote unquote, right? Then when I was like numbering it, I'm like just kind of looking at it. I said, wouldn't it be cool if 9/11 was the 156th verse? And it wasn't, it's 154. Then I started looking at different ones. I was like 8/11 and 141 are prime, you know. I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then I just kind of, you know, it just went from there. Not really a super exciting you know, origin, but for some reason I just sat down on with a piece of paper and started writing all the verses down and calculating the numbers, and I did all the times. I should actually post that, my very first piece of paper that I wrote everything down on. I still have it, and I used it for quite a while to calculate all the verses. And yeah, I don't know, just got that idea one day to start looking at it, because it's something I've always thought about. I don't know, just the way it was, I guess.
Yeah, and it's crazy because even like the 3313 code with the relationship between those 3 verses and how it matches to the Pyramid of Giza, like it's like,
yeah, well, I will, if I tell you my story about my experience, it will maybe provide a little more understanding of how, like, I would say after 2017, I don't know, my understanding and way to, you know, my finding things, you know, I just don't know. I don't have a specific thing I'm looking for. It's like I just get a thought in my brain, and then I start looking at it, and I kind of like, oh man, there's really something to this, you know. I mean, there's not really you know, it's just stuff comes to me, you know. I don't know, it's like super organic. So, but yeah, when I share that information, and you kind of after 2017, I just start like exponentially seeing these numbers, and they just keep appearing over and over again. And yeah, the 30 through 13 is super interesting. And all the, 466, the 466 prime, and then the number color, the color on the color wheel, or the color stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. So
Yeah. And then what was I gonna say? Because I feel that way too. Like sometimes when I'll have a random idea to check something, I feel like it definitely is coming like just it's totally like not for me. So I relate to what you said, but still just the information so much, like I have the foundation from what you guys said, because I had you guys I just watch you guys' YouTube channels, and I'm so curious to know like how you guys, like, were there other channels talking about this kind of stuff when you were like kind of starting, or did you just kind of have to build it from the ground up?
well, the first channel, of course, I'm not whatever. I learned about gematria, like I've heard of it, before Zach Hubbard, was kind of like became the big gematria, I guess, he's kind of the origin of that on YouTube, basically. But I'd heard of it before that. Then he did, he started on his channel, and I was like, man, there's really something to this. And then I met Bobby, and then he was into the gematria too. And then Dan Barrett, I don't know if you ever watched any of his videos, but that's where my kind of like, introduction to gematria was. And then I always kind of, I think it's on my channel, but I have a suggestion on my channel for channels, Matthew Nicholson, and he did a bunch of stuff on Saturn and the number 969, and how that's kind of another repeating, I guess, permeating number, this 969, and Saturn worship and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was just like a combination of like the gematria, it's like a way to calculate your reality, and like these numbers and this stuff is showing up over and over again. And it's like, so there has to be, something to it,
Yeah, like I'm really trying to show, like, I guess I guess that's why I'm really interested in showing my synchronicities, because I'm hoping to really show that, like, there's something, there's another element to this, like, to this universe that is you know like, it's just not talked about, but there's definitely something there, because like how Cody did the work on V for Vendetta. Did you hear how or I think it was in my video, but like I mentioned how like I used to be on like a competitive dance team, and we actually did a V for Vendetta set.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't hear that. No.
So yeah. So that was like what I did before, like when I was in college, and so yeah, we did a V for Vendetta themed set, and then like, how that movie's all about the remember the 5th of November, and so I checked the day that we performed that set, and Natalie Portman, the main character of V for Vendetta, she was 11,500 days old when we performed that set.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So I'm like, there's like, that means that like something was put into like these people's minds, like, so that it would line up perfectly like that. And it's just, I don't know, it's like things like that.
Well, if you watch Dan Barrett's channel, I mean, he kind of bases his whole channel on his synchronicities, and like, and how his synchronicities are literally, kind of manifest themselves in the news, and like themes. And I mean, that's his whole channel, like his, are synchronicities that he's experiences. And it's like, it's, to me, yeah, he has a great channel, and he's really, really good at like, putting themes together. And, and the synchronicities are so interesting, because it's like, how, I don't know how they're possible. Like, I was talking to Bobby like a couple months ago. We were talking about, the Exodus, and, escaping Egypt, and like, because I live like in between Minnesota and North Dakota, right on the Red River, right? Like, the Red Sea and, parting the Red Sea. We were literally talking about that stuff. And then I told him, yeah, I got to go run some errands, and so I go jump in my car and like walk like an Egyptian is like on the radio as soon as I turn my car on, and we're just like literally talking about, I mean, it's just stuff like that. I was like, how is that stuff possible? I mean, there's like, I haven't heard walk like an Egyptian on the radio for 2 years. And then, we're talking about it. And then like 1 minute later in my car, it's like playing on the radio, so yeah, I mean, these synchronicities are, I think, once you start paying attention to the universe, it kind of pays attention to you, I don't know. I don't know how you would describe that, but yeah, you're tapping into, or I said, we, are tapping into a, like an unknown, but not now it's known source of, information. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, something similar happened on Cody's channel, one of his lives, because it was me and Casey were on it, and Cody was talking about Venus and this fire, like this girl, that song, I'm your Venus, I'm your fire.
Yep.
And then Casey brought up Alicia Keys and that song, This Girl Is on Fire.
Yep.
So we're talking about that, and then I was on my lunch break, and then I went to get gas, like literally right after Casey mentioned that. I went into the gas to pay for my gas, and that was playing in the gas station, that song.
Right. Yeah. I mean, how is that possible?
Do you remember that, Cody? Are you there, Cody?
Yeah, I'm here. I had my mic muted. Yeah. I was talking a bunch, and I had no idea. Like in this whole time that you guys were talking, I was trying to talk, and I was wondering, like, can they hear me? But then I guess I realized the whole time my mic was muted.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you at all.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean, what you guys are saying, it's just crazy, like how everything really is. In my opinion, everything is destined, so like it's destiny to just be where we're at right now, and how everything's worked out. I just all the time feel like I don't have really any say over, at this point, I don't feel like I have any say over what comes into my mind. Whatever I choose to research, it always seems to flow perfectly into what is going on, and connects with Sean, and connects with other people, and what you guys are saying, with Sean, like walking in and hearing the song that you were talking about on the radio. And it's, I have stuff like that happen too all the time. I mean, I think everyone does it. Some people just don't notice it even. Like some people aren't really watching for it. So,
yeah, on my first Wormwood video I ever did, my videos started out real simple and, not real whatever. That's just how it is. But I'd thrown Revelation 13:18 into my first Wormwood video. And when I did that, that was back in 2016. And when I did that, I kind of felt like it was out of place, like in there, because it didn't, whatever I threw it in there because of the number connection to the 13 times 18 is, 234. Then when you add the mirror to that, it's 666, and the number of the beast, but if you really read Revelation 13:17 and 13:18, it's about, the number and the name, right? And, the number of the beast, the name of the beast. And another thing that I desperately have wanted to share with people, and it has to do with literally getting out of Babylon, quote, per se, but is like the last 3 years of my life have been like dedicated to this theme of the name. Okay. And like, I've never really shared it because I wanted to like, accomplish everything with that before I introduced it to other people, but it never really happened. But it's almost like it's better that it didn't happen when I started that stuff like 3 years ago. 'Cause now my knowledge of what the path that has led me down now is like I don't think anyone has the same knowledge or that I do of that specific topic. So, but it's another thing I wanted to share. I'll probably share all that stuff in a video. But yeah, it's just super interesting how like stuff in my that like like in my videos or in my recent past is like coming back, and like it's like it's amplified now. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and yeah, like I said, I've had that same feeling, where I'll just randomly throw in a number from, like, I've only been having my channel now for not even 3 years, so like the stuff I've talked about even in the beginning stages of my channel, there was certain numbers I talked about. I just look back now and feel like, did I even really know what I was doing? Did I know what numbers I was really connecting? And now, like, as I've progressed, certain numbers have always come up, and they make way more sense now and they've come such everything's just so much more clear. Of course, I'll look back on this day now, here where we're at now, in probably a year, and also say, wow, I can't believe how much I've seen through these numbers. But yeah, it's just so clear, like, sometimes how these things like just come to our doorstep, and then all of a sudden, a year later, the numbers mean so much more, and then everything falls into place the more you do the research. So
Yeah, I think everyone's like, kind of on a accelerated learning curve. I mean, there's so many topics and things that I want to learn and do, but it's like I just literally don't have enough time. But I just have this appetite to, you know, you know, learn stuff and investigate stuff and like do my videos and stuff. But I mean, I have I have to participate in quote unquote real life, with the family and work and which is, probably should be my number one priority. But, it's like, I can't let this part of it go either. Cause I can just feel that, like, there's an accelerated urgency and, everyone's like, I think, learning and waking up, like you were talking about the other day, Cody, like when you were doing your 1776 video, like showing all the correlations, like the gematria, and like, you just want to like grab people and like, look at this, this is like, it's so profound. How can this be and I feel the same way. I just want to grab people and be like, just look and listen for 2 seconds, and like you'll learn something that'll that actually help you, or whatever. I mean, it's like you just want to like teach people, and you want that knowledge out there. Like that's how I feel. I want other people to learn what I know, and like I just can't wait to do it. So and in the last, you said you've been doing videos for 3 years and stuff, but like I said, like yesterday, I think, or whatever, your last 6 months, man, you've really I mean, me and Bobby were talking about you, and we were like, man, Cody is just like, he's on point, and he's really, so, and like I said, if Bobby wouldn't have taught me the astrology, and I wouldn't figured out the Revelation 12 sign, and then I didn't have time to investigate it after the fact, and then you guys totally ran with it, and like, I mean, it's just, so yeah, everything's just so interesting right now.
Yeah, I appreciate I'm glad that others see that I'm on. I feel like I'm on point on most of the stuff I do. Some days I feel, like I could find more, but like, just for me, and ever since I've started really connecting with Sean, especially, like, it's the last couple of months have been even heavier. But yeah, the last 6 months for me has been, I felt like things are just coming so clear, and everything's just accelerating, and really it was just like, my biggest thing was always decoding WWE. And actually, I haven't done a video about WWE in a while, and I think I've went the longest now for like, I've gone in like a year without talking about any WWE stuff. But like, that really opened up a lot for me too, because I started to see a lot of symbols, a lot of archetypes, a lot of things, and then just like, once I met Sean and started like throwing numbers around with him, and then this whole Rose stuff, and really the Rose stuff all started with Cody Rhodes, which was a wrestling thing. So I noticed the Rhodes theme and the Rose, and then that kind of turned into the Crowley stuff, and then the magic stuff came along, and like the whole, just how it melded together perfectly. It's just crazy looking back at it now. And then with Sean and his stuff that happened with him, and Kobe Bryant stuff, and that was part of it too, the Kobe Bryant door stuff. As a matter of fact, last night in WWE, man, they had, I'm going to show this because considering we're talking about doors and like accelerating, opening doors to new levels. Let's see if this comes up. John Cena. Door shirt. I don't know if this is even up online yet because he just debuted. He came back last night at the Money in the Bank thing, and he said 2025 is going to be my last year. And so in case you guys don't know who this is, John Cena is like probably the greatest wrestler of all time, considered by most. So I don't know if it's going to show. Let me see. John Cena. Sean, you'll get a kick out of this. Mm-hmm. What he was wearing on his shirt. If it comes up. Well, first of all, he came back and he was saying, he normally says, my time is now, or my time is now, but now he's saying this is the last time, the last time is now. Because he's retiring, right? So, but you can't see it, unfortunately, because it's on the back of his shirt. But it literally has a door.
Just a door.
Like, it's a door. Yeah, it's a door with. Let me see if John Cena.
Yeah, the wrestling videos. I know. I think Derek has done a little bit on wrestling in the past, but like I watched some of your wrestling videos, and those, the wrestling, they're super coded. I never realized how, what they were, basing their little storylines off of. Yeah, they're super coded. I never really looked into that before, but after you started doing a few of them, like, man, these guys they're really laying it on thick with the symbolism,
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I just noticed that because I grew up watching that, and when I was a fan, like well before I even, well before I even ever found gematria or anything. But like as soon as I like woke up and like started seeing symbols and gematria, like it was pretty clear that this was like going to be a gold mine, because I just knew about all the symbols that they threw out. And so, as soon as I started really honing my craft at it, look at that on the front of their page.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
And you see this stuff, man? Like, we've been talking about doors. After this, you can't see me. And 2025, the last time is now. So, his normal phrase is just, you can't see me. He does that thing with his hand. He waves his hand in front of his face and says, you can't see me. And of course, John Cena is a Jesus Christ symbol too, because the JC, but not only because the JC, his name actually also equals Jesus Christ. John Cena and Jesus Christ equal 146 in the same cipher.
Okay, yeah.
Which is, of course, that's also Trump's birthday. And his dad is Frederick Christ Trump. But yeah, it's just interesting that 2025, we've been talking about it, and notice the colors too. It's the America colors.
Right.
So is this the last time for America, the U.S. dollar's last time? I don't know. Something.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting. And and part of my path that I was, might share here has to do with a lot with the United States, quote unquote corporation, and the United States of America. You're talking 1776. That's the revolution and the founding of America, and then what it's morphed into today is much different. So, yeah, there's all these themes that are kind of running together: money and America, and yeah.
Yeah, I just keep seeing all the money connections because it just always seems like whenever it seems like I'm decoding something, it always seems like something goes down with the money, especially the crypto market. It seems like I know about crypto and I often decode it and stuff, and I often talk about it. But even when I'm decoding, and I see a possibility for some sort of events happening on days, usually it just correlates to the crypto market either crashing or going up. Like it's just weird how that always works out. So like like I was looking at these days, I was looking at these last few days because of the connection between Bitcoin and I was talking about it possibly going up, but then it had a crash. So I was like, okay, well, this is how it's going to be.
Well, yeah, there's your 225 again. You're 22 and 5. 2025 is that 225. So, Thlema calendar, that'll be V11. So V11, that's like a 7. Yeah, I mean, you can look at all this stuff, kind of play with it, But oh yeah, yesterday when I did my live stream with you guys, we were talking about the Titanic, and we were talking about June 3rd again. And then did you see that guy, that the producer of Titanic, died at 63 yesterday?
No.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, and then that Kyrie Jackson, he died in a car crash, and he was born on 8/11.
Yeah, I saw that. I was just getting ready to mention that. I was getting ready to mention also what his name. I just don't know how to spell his name now. Kyrie Jackson. I think I spelled it wrong.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because, like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just keep the Fox News app on my phone, and I just kind of, I'm just looking at the news purely for coded, events or whatever, kind of like whatever, and I saw the Titanic, the producer of Titanic / Avatar died at 63. There was the Kyrie Jackson thing, and then there was, there was some other stories on there, like the stuff I've just been talking about that day, and I'm like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know about
2025 and reverse trigonal. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out is I noticed his name equaled 2025. So, and 2025 is actually, I think it's 15, what is it, 15 squared? Oh, no, sorry, 45 squared.
45th square,
So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we got to watch out for the 45s because, and then obviously the 81. I mean, actually, that's interesting because.
Well, it's interesting. The prime is the 17,609th or 17,609 is the 2025th prime. That's like the Revelation 12 year 1769. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, it is interesting.
And then I know you did a video? Oh, it's been quite a while now, but like March 25th, 2025. You had I noticed there was a bunch of correlations with like a blackout. And
Oh yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that March 25th, 2025 has a lot of connections with I mean, I'll have to start revisiting that again more as we get closer. I did that video like way back last year even, and like I did a whole breakdown of the snake years and how there's blackouts in snake years. So or even
well, thing that I have, I'll do a video about a year, like, a date in 2025 or 2020, and then I'll totally forget about it. You know what I mean? It's like I did it so far in advance that I forget to revisit it again, and I probably miss things, when that date goes by, but I should write more stuff down. But yeah, I that's for some reason why that video really stuck in my head at that March 25th date, because I can't remember, I was doing some of my own investigation into it, and there was I found some interesting connections. I thought, oh man, Cody's really onto something with that March 25th date, because 325 is a magic square of Mars, and I think, let's see, what day of the week is 325?
It's a Tuesday.
I think isn't that the day of Mars also?
Yeah.
Tuesday. Yeah. Yes. I don't know. There was I just thought that for some reason, that's one of your videos. I was like, man, this guy's really on it. He's getting pretty good at this decoding stuff.
Yeah. Well, what really got me on it was that it was just like simply taking that shirt that tennis those protesters were wearing when they came onto the tennis court. That girl, I think it was on June 3rd. I think it was actually on the anniversary of that Revelation thing. I think it was on like June 3rd, I think, 2022. I can't remember now. But did you hear about that where the girl, she was protesting climate change and she ran onto the field and she said we have 1028 days.
Yeah. Yep.
And then that, if you measure from that day she did that, it's 1028 days, and that's lands on that time frame between March 25th and 26th, and even the 27th. I found some interesting stuff. But I was also noticing that if you're looking at the date March 26th, it's a huge blackout connections because it has the 85, which is blackout. It's the 85th day of the year, and it's also 146 weeks from the day the girl went on the court, and that's power outage. So
Well, it was the anniversary of the Francis Bridge 2 collapse,
right, I told Sean earlier this year. I actually told someone else in my Discord, because it was before that. It was before the bridge collapse, and I told someone, I'm watching for March 26th because I'm wondering if we're going to get a huge clue for something big happening the next year on that date. And then we got that bridge collapse, and it was because of the ship having a power outage. Remember, the ship's power went out. So I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I was like, yeah, I completely forgot about didn't forget about it, but I kind of forgot the significance of it because it was connected to a power outage. And I even told someone, like, literally, like, I'm watching for that date this year because I just feel like maybe we'll get like a clue for the next year. And then we did. And we got the biggest event of the year really so far. I would say most people probably would consider that one of the most heavily. I know that for me it was. I got like 21,000 views on one of my videos for that. So like, thanks to Donut. Donut shouted me out, but
yeah, I've been into I get into the law stuff, and I mentioned that before, on my channel a little bit, but like the ship, the biggest, citizen ship, and yeah, there's like a whole aspect in my life about citizenship, and like the 14th Amendment has to do with citizenship, and then all the 14s that go with it, and then I mentioned some other things, but the original 14th Amendment was to accommodate African American people, right? And that was the original intent. And I mean, how many people know that? I mean,
yeah,
the U.S. citizenship was for African people, Black people, and then of course, in the last, I don't know, 5-8 years, I mean, race has been amplified, like huge, especially in the last like 4 years, I would say, since George Floyd and stuff. But I mean, yeah, I think when I see ship stuff, I think of like, the maritime law and like citizenship and all these things, that have to do with America, and America has a unique citizenship where the original citizenship was complete and total freedom. But yeah, I'm like I said, on my channel, I'll talk more about that, and like I might just go off and just tell you all the stuff I've done and tried to do, and all my experiences. But yeah, it's just like what's going on right now is like so tailored to America and its money. It's just it's wild.
yeah, and I need to do more. Yeah, I'm interested in watching more of your videos and sharing more about that because it's something that I'm interested in. It's for me. I think some of it goes over my head right now, maybe. But I mean, I'm sure I would learn it. But like it is very interesting because I've never seen really anyone else talking about that. And I remember I did watch a video where you mentioned it. It was like a while back now, but like it's always been intriguing to me since I first heard you talk about it. So I'm interested in hearing more.
Yeah, I was
it.
just looking at the movie Back to the Future again. It's like it has to be one of the most quoted movies of all time. But the lightning, the whole movie is centralized about lightning striking a courthouse, right? And that's like there is no other manifestation of law than a courthouse, right? The lightning,
Yeah.
I mean, that's from like what is it, Luke 10:18? Though I think that's the Barack or whatever. Anyways, but the courthouse, and you're talking about the tennis court. All of our sports are on courts, And then you look at like, and then you're talking about wrestling in a ring. There's a ring in an eclipse. I mean, you start looking at like, you try to like, expand just a little bit on, the symbolism, like a basketball court looks like a Taurus field, and a tennis court is like, the measurements all have like they're all specific measurements, and they're usually, a lot of these sports are invented by Freemasons, or or something like that.
Right.
And but yeah, like like the wrestling ring, and then the court, and then the movies with the courthouse, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just interesting, because I think like, and you're talking about the book of the law yesterday, I mean, and free will. Like, one thing that I've, in my looking into law, is like, they're the judicial system, or whatever you would call it, they're big on your free will, right? But they lay everything out for you, and it's your free will whether you want to play or not. But if you play and don't know what you're doing, you're gonna get burned, right? So like, you have to like be educated, and like, they'll let you just they let you have free will, but if you don't know what you're doing, right, your free will can get you in trouble. But it's only because of your lack of education, and I'm not saying they're playing fair either, but I mean, there's that whole aspect that's interesting when you were talking about the book of the law and free will. And then like, is your free will, is it woven into the quote unquote matrix, right? Or is there destiny, like like in Neo, he doesn't like destiny, because it goes against free will, right? But I think your free will is almost like woven into the matrix. You know what I mean? It's like your free will, it affects every, you know what I mean? You start getting back into the synchronicities and the organic part. But yeah, this free will thing has come up a lot. And then you think about free willy, and the whale in the ocean, and the the ocean law, the law of merchant, and all the currency is water. And yeah, I mean, you start thinking about that on just on a first level of the symbolism, and it gets pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with me is like, like I said, I always ask myself, and I always tell Sean this, like, I think there's this force, that it's, for me, when I have a thought, like, where does it really come from? Like, because I don't sit here and say, I don't sit here and choose which thoughts I'm going to have next. There's a mechanism that's kind of like pushing them out of me, like reality is a mechanism that's kind of pushing you into a situation where you're forced to either make one or two decisions, and basically it's pretty much clear which decision you're going to make based off of which path you want to take. So for me, whenever I'm doing stuff, I've always just kind of been this person that's just kind of nonchalant walking through the life, because I did some crazy things when I was, I'm not that old now, but when I was in my 20s, I just randomly picked up and sold everything, and after I got a divorce, and just like took trains, and had everything I owned was in a backpack, but I've always felt like, everything I was doing was always just kind of being led. I was being led around, and I was just kind of always felt like in my own little bubble, like just whatever I was doing, I was destined to be doing it. And when I started getting into the numbers, it was like, yeah, even in my own life, seeing how everything's playing out, it just felt like it was completely, even the dates that I've been coming and going from Germany are like super coded, and like everything that and I didn't mean to do that. It was all just like perfectly timed. So yeah, I get what you're saying. Like for me, it's woven into I think the free will is kind of woven into the matrix itself, like how we choose things. We think we choose things, but sometimes it's kind of just there for us to choose. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, my life path like was like, I mean, just like the standard, get a good job, have a wife and kids, and just like get a house, and like in reality, it's like it's a really mundane, everybody's doing this, trying to do the same thing, and it's like, if I had to do it over again, I would maybe doing what you just described is probably maybe I mean, there's like 20 years ago, I'd say, oh, that's a horrible idea. But now I look at it and I'm like, I'm absolutely jealous of someone that could just, get on a train and go from point A to point B with a backpack and then, just whatever, but I used to think that that's like not good. Now that you're supposed to get a job and you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
my thought process is like, it's like, wow, I've invested so much into this, what everyone else is doing. And I'm just following everyone else off the cliff, I feel like. And then I'm like, wish I could done something like that. It's like, the way I feel about stuff like that now is like, wow, I really envy people that can just not join the crowd,
Yeah. I was just, I was like that too, like in the very, like before I kind of like, I was like doing my job, I had a job for 8 years at the same place and just, just stayed there and did it. And then one day I just completely got tired of it and just essentially said, bye. And then ever since then, my life has been, I still move around, because I'm in Germany with my girlfriend and I can't even stay here for 3 months right now. In fact, I have to, I can't stay for more than 3 months. So I have to move out of the EU for 3 months now. And every time I do that, I have to spend money. And it's getting more and more tight because I've been doing that now for a year because going back home has always been so like right now, flights just to fly back to the United States are over 1,000. And
Oh, wow.
by the time I get back, because I don't have my own place there anymore, because I've been moving around for all these years, like I stay with my parents for a bit and I would come back here. But, I still have to, the job I used to have was the Amish. I can always go back and work that job whenever I want, but because I can drive them, I can drive and work with them on their construction sites and stuff. But it's just not like really logical right now because most of the money I have, or a lot of the money I have that's free is either I have money in crypto invested that I don't want to touch because I think it's going to go up towards the end of the year, so I have more money. But then the money I have free is just there's just a big like issue in my life right now with this having to keep moving out of the country for 3 months and then coming back. So that's like my. Otherwise, I'm very happy. I'm like I love my girlfriend and it's a great relationship. Just that one thing, So, and it's kind of my vice, I guess, right now is having to. And I'd love to move around, like, but I'd rather like be able to have money to go to like Thailand and stay with her there, like somewhere more cheaper and be going to beaches and just enjoying myself rather than like jumping around because before I went to Albania and then I went to Turkey. So I've been doing like so much traveling. It's just crazy. But
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like I say, I envy that lifestyle. I mean, I wouldn't trade now what I have and, my family and stuff. It's like, that's like number one, of course. But, but I just look back and I see, that I was like prejudiced towards, stuff like that. But now it's like, it's really, really cool. So, but it's interesting how strict the EU is, I mean, I've heard you kind of mention that before, moving in and out and like, yeah, I mean, just imagine if, like we were that strict, kept track of that, and especially you were just talking about nations and borders in your video today, I mean, it's just like interesting how strict the Europe is there.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where, it's just, I'm just hoping that in the next month, my crypto investment does go up at least a bit so I can have a bit of extra, because I mean, if it went up just a bit now, me and her could probably go out of the country for a few months together. But right now she can't really go because, she doesn't really have work right now either. So it's been kind of just been kind of a hectic situation. But at the same time, I mean, it keeps everything fun. It keeps everything. I definitely don't have a down moment. That's for sure.
Well, it gives you the opportunity and time to do your videos, which I think is like, it helps having the free time, so whatever that's interesting, that's good. So yeah, I was going to say too, I had an organic connection with, a date with Sean on 3/8/39. I wish I would have wrote it down, but I was talking about the name stuff earlier, like, and he was talking about all this stuff with his dad. I listened to his video, I think, like a week ago, and it was like an hour long. I listened to it. I don't think I made a comment on it, Sean, but my dad and my mom, like when I was born, they like didn't have a fight, but they had like a disagreement over what my name should be, and my dad wanted Sean, and my mom wanted Lance, and then it ended up being Shane, and so it was like kind of a compromise, but yeah. And then Sean and Shane, they mean the same thing, so the etymology. So,
That's
but
cool.
yeah, I have a lot of synchronicities with Sean, you, and then I was looking at the dates. God, I wish I would have wrote those down. They were super interesting, but I was just like playing with the dates and stuff, and I was like, oh man, that's a really cool connection, because he was just talking about that number, and then I just totally forgot it. So,
oh man,
but
hopefully you remember one day.
yeah, and then you were talking about that you just got your new job, and you were talking about what, Helen, and who was the other girl?
Yeah, so it was
like the sun and moon, or whatever. I remember that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was three girls, and one was named Rose, obviously Venus, and then one was named Helen. The sun, like that's a solar deity, and then Selena, and that's moon goddess. And I started the job on the anniversary of the Revelation 12 sign.
Oh, you did start on 6/3. Okay.
Yeah. And I think because I mentioned to you that I got hired because there was a girl who got pregnant, and she was getting a promotion too, but I was taking her place, but it turns out that all three of the girls were pregnant at the same time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. My sister, we talk about that 108 and the 612 quite a bit. And my sister, she just had a baby on the 12th of June, 612, and then her house number is 108. And I would always say, oh, that's a really good number, 108. On the one, Revelation 108th verse of Revelation is 612, and I just I see these numbers over and over. Like, how is that? It's just pretty cool. And then
it's just, I mean, you could probably relate though, like when something's really cool and you just wish more people like can understand how cool it is to you.
Right. Yeah. That's why I said, like, Cody was like, look at this stuff. I mean, just want to like look at this, and like shake people. The same thing. I just like, hey, just pay attention for 2 seconds, and this will really. I mean, how is this possible? But then on the same, on the other side of the page, people. There's people. I mean, it's not meant for them. Maybe, I don't know. It's not. That's not their path. So
yeah, I think I was saying
they're not ready.
I think I was just saying that like about like the 1776 with Beyonce was so crazy. Like, I mean, just because I know how hard it is to get matches in Latin gematria, Jewish gematria, and somehow her name equals 1776 in 2 ciphers, and then her album and her name had that number, and then just how she was born 1776 days after the eclipse and lunation 666, and Star Spangled Banner equals 1776 and 666. So it was like, like that whole video was just like, man, I wish like thousands of people would have saw that. Like it only got like 1.4K views, and like, I mean, I just back in the summer I was making videos that were way worse than that got like 3,000 views, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, it's just downtime right now too, I think, because the summer and
people have stuff, and the weather clears up and gets nice, and doing vacations. Like I said, I've taken like basically a month off because I had vacation, and I have other obligations, and and I don't really, they're not really obligations, but I really enjoy. I'm gone all the time for work, so like when I'm on vacation and stuff, I really enjoy just being home and going to activities and watching my children, do basketball and baseball. It's like it's such a hard balance, and then what we do is such a niche. It's like it isn't for everybody, and then you start talking about the law stuff, like, and another whole, there's another whole area of my life where I dedicate to that. And the people in those Telegram groups and then those YouTube channels are like, I mean, it's just like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different groups, and like and then there's like the masses, and it's like you just want to like grab everybody, hey, come look at this stuff. There's like really good stuff going on here. And they're like, what, they just don't get it,
Yeah, it's just, I'm just glad to have the group that I do. I can't complain too much. I'm glad to have everyone in the chat right now. I mean, there's still 75 people in here listening to us jabber. So, I mean, I feel
Oh
pretty
yeah,
grateful.
maybe I should jump off here. I got stuff to do, but yeah, I'm like I said, there's so few people in the community that are this invested in it that yeah, you do enjoy talking, and then when you realize like your path, like the our intertwining, um, studies and whatever you want to call it, everything we've looked at kind of has been intertwined and is coming together better and better every day. It's just really cool, But yeah,
Yeah.
like I tell people, my sister about, all this stuff, talk a lot about the birth certificates, and you can tell people and show people, and then at the end of the day it's up to them how they want to move, so like you just have to, like, at some point you just have to like let people come to you when they're ready, and that's how I
Right.
kind of see my channel. But it's so nice when Sean started picking up the wormwood stuff, and then he started doing the dates, and stuff. I mean, it's just just another level of, it's just nice to see when someone else picks up your work and then kind of does like better with it, like he betters it, and like I see your work, and it's just cool. And
Yeah.
um yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I'm grateful for the community, all the people, you guys, you and Sean, and everyone in the chat right now, and everyone that watches the videos every day, pretty much, that I put out, and everyone that that even that's still just subscribed to my channel. I hit 7,000 today,
Oh
and then
wow.
it went away. So 2 people unsubscribed. It always happens to me whenever I hit a milestone. I'm like, yeah, I hit 7,000, and then after I started the video, I think I lost like 3 subs. So I don't know if that's YouTube or if just people just doing that. I don't know who just sits on YouTube and unsubscribes. I don't do that. Like, there's even
Oh
channels like,
yeah, I'm a firm believer in the like channels like ours, like somebody is watching. That's what I think. You
yeah,
know, the quote unquote men in black. I don't know what you want to call it, but I mean, what we're observing and calculating. I'm sure there's, we're not the only ones that know that there's like this organic matrix. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I mean, there's other. So I think that yeah, the numbers get manipulated, and maybe certain subscribers or comments you get or maybe like and I take that as almost like a compliment, but
I mean,
yeah.
I know for sure that they've taken away people's subs. I've had people tell me that they've been unsubscribed. So
Oh yeah, I've seen it. Like someone showed, I was on another channel, and they do a lot of law stuff, and they get into some pretty revealing stuff, and like they were keeping track of their view counts and their whatever and subs, and like it's like clearly it was someone who was either unsubscribing for them, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, there's manipulation, you
right,
know
yeah,
or even if they, oh, we'll just change this number and see if they notice, this number and stuff, and like who knows, but yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting. Well
Yeah, but
guys, I
yeah.
think I'm gonna jump off here, so
Oh, okay. It was nice to talk to you, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
man.
started out with the Thelemic trying to explain that stuff, and it kind of went on for a long time here, so but yeah, thanks guys. I'll catch you later, and hopefully I get those videos out and maybe share my little thoughts with you guys, so take it easy.
You
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, and you're always welcome to jump on. So,
Okay, later.
and talk to you
all right,
soon.
see you, man. All right, Sean. Well, I think it's getting late here too, so I don't know if there's anything else you like wanted to talk about or share before we get off, or
I think I'm okay.
okay. Well, I mean, it was good to at least get on with you and him and have this chat. And thanks again to, like I said, all of you guys in the chat for listening to us and just being here with us tonight. And I see Coffee Girl still in here. Coffee Girl, you're always in here. You're my most dedicated. You're always in Sean's chats too. So yeah,
I
much love to
appreciate it.
you. And Sandy also. Sandy, I always see you in here. And XX, you also, and all these people are very always in the chat. So I'm very grateful to all of you, and very grateful for Seven coming on. If you guys go subscribe to his channel. I'll leave the link in all the links in the video, in the comments of this video. So, and then Sean's channel as well. Go give him a sub. Good old Sean. Good to get back on with the live stream with him. And even though during the weeks he's always busy now, but that's the one thing. You just need to get rich, Sean, and then you can keep working your butt off and get rich, and then you can
come back.
It was just funny because I was thinking about, how I was talking about the money stuff this month, and how like the crash happened from crypto, like literally like 2 days ago. And that's the last thing I would, because everything was already so low, all the cryptos, and then they just crashed more, just to scare people out. Obviously I didn't get scared out because I've been in this market long enough to know, but like it's just so crazy because of this whole month I was thinking about how, it was going to be a good month for me money wise. And it's like the opposite. So, but yeah, I'm just hoping I can get back and or figure out how I can get in this situation with, get out of this situation with this having to leave every 3 months. I have to get married, I guess. So.
Oh yeah. It was funny. I was thinking about it recently, how like interesting it is, like your connections, you being a Gemini, and then like all these things with like how you're decoding all this money stuff, right? And Gemini ruled by Mercury, and that's god of commerce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it's also interesting too how like Mercury's got a transportation, and you were driving the Amish.
Yep.
And all the like your plumbing connection too. I think that might be why all this dam stuff keeps following you around, because that's kind of like those are kind of synonymous in a way, right? Like the flow of water.
Right. Yeah.
And then that ties back into the money stuff, because it's about currency and flow and all that. So I just thought that it was starting to make a lot of sense why like that kind of stuff has been a big part of your like synchronicities.
Yeah, I mean that's been a big part of my life, just for a while now, because I've been in crypto so long. And yeah, but it's a good point with Mercury being commerce. Yeah, I guess I gotta just be a little bit more patient, because I know we're on the verge of something good for XRP especially, and that's one of my biggest holdings. So just gotta somehow figure out a way to make it through these next months. If I didn't have to leave right now, I'd be perfect shape, But it's just I still have about a month, I guess, or less than a month now. So time goes so fast too, anyway. So I can't believe I've already been in Germany for this long already. It feels like I just got back here. So
that's crazy.
Anyways, thanks, man, and I'll hit you up tomorrow. We'll talk as usual, and hopefully you can come back on a live. I guess probably next weekend. We'll try to do one at least every weekend. That's hopefully.
Yeah, I'm down for that. But again, amazing decode today. Like, it's like the value of your information is like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man, and your information too. Always, again, like I told Seven, like before, I was talking about, like, since I met you, or since I started talking with you more, everything's opened up even more, because just the fact that we talk and always sharing numbers, it just the sharing itself helps to make more connections. So like I don't know, it's just crazy, and so I'm just glad, again, grateful for everyone in the chat. Thanks to all you guys, and Sean, thanks to you. And make sure you guys go subscribe to Sean's channel, and Seven's channel, and Zenith's channel, and Lambda's channel, Joseph's channel. All those guys. Their links will be in the comments. So, All right, man.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Take care, everyone in the chat. God bless.